It's day number 13, Tuesday in the month of September. It's a brand new week, of course, and we're in day 2 of the week. Welcome on the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akakpo, and for the course of this week, I'm doing this together with Mapito Sibedi. Welcome aboard. Well, joining us this morning for our news review, we have media consultant Liz Hayfan-Asari. As always, she's going to grace us this Tuesday morning, animate the news review for us. But today, when we get into our big stories, we're going to be talking the hard politics, what has been done, what has not been done, and where we're headed as a country. Today, we have a one-on-one interaction with Richard Ahiagba. He's actually the new communications director of the governing New Patriotic Party. We'll be taking his thoughts on pertinent national issues, especially concerning how government is working to alleviate the plight of Ghanaians. Well, that's the first subject we're going to be taking a swipe at, but we also react to the varied comments to an earlier statement by former President John Dramani Mahama. Now, the former president earlier expressed worry over the growing lack of public confidence in our judiciary. He said the situation posed an existential threat to the survival of Ghana's democracy. The former president also said it would take a new Chief Justice to repair the broken image of the judiciary. Then we heard from Attorney General Godfred Dame as he supposedly responded to this. He described Mr. Mahama's attitude as deplorable and unbecoming of a former head of state. There have been different responses from different angles. Today, we'll pick the thoughts of Bobby Banson, who is a lawyer. We'll also pick the thoughts of a lawyer and aide to John Mahama himself, Joyce Bawa Mokhtario. They'll be sharing their thoughts on these comments and more. But I'm sure you watched our newest Hotline documentary, A Dam of Promises, yesterday at 8:30 p.m. In that feature, my colleague Albert Sori tracks progress on the Pwalugu multi-purpose dam. We know that official construction of the dam was to commence in February 2020. But JoyNews investigations on the ground show that there are no physical signs of ongoing construction of the dam, which was estimated to cost some 993 million American dollars. Well, joining us to expatiate on why that has come to be. We'll be joined by our guests, Dr. Charles Abugri, CEO of the Northern Development Authority. We also have Charles Nyaba, Executive Director, Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, together with Professor David Miller, President, Miller Institute for Transdisciplinary and Developmental Studies. You get to join us with all your thoughts on these and other issues that we'll be discussing on the show via phone and social media. The hashtag is AM Show. Drop us a message. Let's hear from you. And at the tail end, be sure to call and share your thoughts, because this show is all about you. Thank you for staying with us. Up next, we serve you the news with Pakwesi Shando. Stay.
It's the second day of the working week. Welcome to the AM News. My name is Pakwesi Shandoff. Let's start with the latest on illegal mining, where President Akufo-Addo is asking the Attorney General to impose the highest penalty on Aisha Juan if she's found guilty. Aisha Juan, who was deported in 2018, was rearrested last week in the Ashanti region. She has been charged with the sale and purchase of minerals without valid license and mining without license. President Akufo-Addo has been speaking at the ongoing bar conferencing hall in the Volta region.
Entrench media freedom, deepened attachment to the rule of law, probity and accountability, respect for individual liberties, human rights, the principles of democratic accountability and social justice, and created an environment in which government and regulatory policies attempt to enhance rather than inhibit or frustrate trade, commerce, and investments. May I, learned colleagues, assure you of my full support of the Attorney General in his determination to prosecute Aisha Juan and her collaborators, who apparently insist on flouting our laws against galamsey and illegal mining. I expect, if they are found guilty, that the courts will apply the full rigor of the new amended Act 995, which has increased substantially the punishment for breaches of the law.
Still on illegal mining, District Chief Executive of Elembele, Kwesi Bonzo, says he is not perturbed by what is happening to him in his fight against illegal small-scale mining. He says this would rather urge him on to intensify his fight against the menace. Mr. Bonzo explains that he would be the last person to sabotage President Akufo-Addo in fighting Galamsey.
How do you feel about this arrest?
Sad. Sad because it shouldn't have happened the way it happened. It was so avoidable. Why do I say so? I was as chairman of Elembele, who was himself under investigation for missing excavators. So once I got wind of the excavators moving out of my district, instinctively, I knew I needed to take reasonable steps to have evidence. First, to confirm whether it's indeed one of the missing excavators which was being transported. And how could I have done that? I could only do that by taking pictures and videos. And this is a moving vehicle. So I had to go take videos and pictures. That's all I did. I never obstructed the police in any way, as was claimed in the police statement. It was only a video that I took. The first point of the video was just after Ankobra, where I took the video myself in my car, and then I stopped my car, went to the other side to get the details of the excavator. That's all my interest. The whole action lasted for just 1 minute, 6 seconds. So at that point that the police decided that they should arrest me. So I had to run into my car to move to the nearest town. Okay. Because this was in the middle of nowhere. I didn't know what was going to happen to me. We were very armed. There was no confrontation. I mean, why would I even go and confront an armed policeman? So there was no confrontation. Even at the point of my arrest, I didn't resist. Except that it was so dramatic, they put handcuffs. And I was saying, you don't need to handcuff me to arrest me. For heaven's sake, I am a DC who is performing his legitimate duties. So if for whatever it is, the police feel obstructed, for whatever it is, and they want to arrest me, they could have easily even invited me. I would have made in any case, I was already under police self-cognizance bail because I had been arrested earlier on this same excavator issue. So it's unfortunate and it's sad. It's really
Some Ghanaians who are yet to get their Ghana cards want authorities to set up more registration centers. This call comes in the wake of a raft of sanctions imposed on mobile users by the National Communications Authority. Joseph Akablay was at the Elwak Stadium Registration Center and reports many are still without the Ghana cards required to register their SIM cards.
We are suffering too much. The youngs, the old, whoever, we are all suffering here. We are just talking. Because if you say something, they say that computer is slow.
We are praying we get it today because we have to leave our works and then come and sit here since morning. And then you go back again without not getting your card. You don't even know when you come back here again for your card. So we are believing we all get our cards today so that we can go in peace.
Looks of hope and despair. For some, it's an opportunity to make friends while whiling away time in this long wait. Different stories, but the same concern.
We are coming for our card, our Ghana card.
Does that mean that you've registered already, and when did you register?
I think the beginning of the year, probably March there. But when I came, they told me I have an issue with the card, white paper something. So they took the card, and then they told me they'll call me back for the card. So they called me. Then when I came for the card, you can see there is a queue here. And then sometimes they don't just go according to the queue. There are people that will come protocol. They have to enter. And then there is misunderstanding. And then sometimes they give the cards to us. When we take them, it becomes invalid. You can't use it again. So you have to return the card again for them to work on it. And then it takes some time before you get them again.
So it means that you've not been able to register your SIM?
No. And then they blocked my SIM too. And then you know that in Ghana, most of our works are on phone. You have to call a customer, talk to the person. Somebody has to send you money. And the network is not working. So I think we are pleading that they should do something about it, because it's not like people are not willing to do the card, but just that the process takes too long for you to get your card. So if they are taking our SIMs from working, it's going to affect a lot of people.
So they gave me a day to come. I went, came back, still not done. And they gave me a number to call. I called several times, no one was answering. So I came today for it again, and then I was told I have to join the queue again for my card. I've been here, this is my 4th time being here.
She said her number had been blocked. Is that the case for you as well?
Yes, me too. So I'm not able to make any call.
They want government to help them by ensuring that many registration centers are opened.
We're very much frustrated. You come here 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. They'll come and give you a whole lot of instructions. Do this, do that. If you don't do this, we can't do anything. I was here last month. They said I should go and gazette my name. For a whole 5 weeks, I went at this place, Accra. Today I went for it. I managed to reach here before 8 o'clock, and I'm still here. They said they are coming to take the elderly people to go and do it for them. Still, up till now, we are here.
Oh, gigantic problem. I came to join the queue where I was almost at the point of registering my card. And they told me that ordinary paper, they said because the person didn't write his name on it, I have to come and join this line again. And you can imagine all this. You can imagine all this, that somebody will leave your work, your daily production, and then come and sit in a queue like this. You see, wasting precious time. We are talking about digitization. Why can't they, develop proper means of which this registration can be easily done?
This is the situation here at the Airwork Sports Stadium, where many continue to wait in anxiety, expecting that the process will get smoother. Some, for many months, they keep coming in here hoping to get their Ghana cards. For JoyNews, my name is Joseph Akable.
Let's return to the Volta region, where some fishermen are having a torrid time accessing Premix 4 to power their fishing boats. They say the situation is forcing them to cut down on the number of trips they embark on daily, thereby reducing the quantity of their catch. They want government to put in strict measures to curb Premix 4 diversion. Correspondent Ivy Setoji reports.
A visit to Voja Beach in the Keta municipality saw a lot of fisher folks going about their normal duties, but have been complaining about the issues they face in their fishing activities. A boat owner with over 100 workers, Kojo Terry, said he's unable to get enough Premix fuel and also have to mostly mix petrol with diesel, which is very expensive. He asked that authorities do something about the situation so every fisherman can have access to the Premix fuel, which is subsidized by government.
And my company name is Discover Fishing Company. I have the company Fishing Canoe 1116, and we used to suffer a lot because of the Premix fuel for fishing. Though the Keta MC have tried a lot for me to approach the chief fishermen to help me with Premix fuel 111 40 pieces of yellow jerry can. But that one is not helping me at all, because the canoe, they always take sometimes 7 or 8 in a day because of the distance of the fish working. So I used to suffer, and then if that one finish, I used to go for the petrol with engine oil to mix it before we use. So in a week we use about 80 to 85 pounds. If the fish work in a short distance, we use about 30 pieces, 40 pieces in a week. So that one is not helping me at all the fishing. And I employ people, about 130 people as men in working for this fishing working. Apologizing to government to help us, not me alone, because the way I'm suffering for the Premix, the same way my people are suffering because of the Premix. Though my own is too west, but I have to use my other colleagues because we are all working together as a fishermen in Voja or all over the landing beaches from Anyangui to Aflau.
Some other fisher folks have also been speaking with Joy News.
Discover Kenya Judiciary le ajido le Voja. Anya mare ka ba mare ka manyan ka ba wona ibang ba dom veveta we ba na yire landing beach arobe ojami ha ogbo modoganu ke mleba AMC bubunato gamaganva fia Judiciary ateren aro discover ateren alba abia ku khairewe ba iba petronya ofram na landing beach arobe ojami ha ogbo ta MC ya na monpoko yopu fiao na onya ba o no no pekperen pla nviare aka hama ava we ba veve se galiko ko ikeba opufia o nya ba o mo roro ba yodina.
Staying with this development, some metropolitan, municipal and district chief executives in the coastal areas of the Volta region have been warned to stop interfering in the sale of Premix fuel. The warning came after all the 32 chief fishermen met at the pumping station to deliberate on issues affecting the coastal areas and possible ways to have them resolved. Ivy Setoji again.
Some chief fishermen in the southern sector of the Volta region have warned some MMDCEs to stop interfering in the sale of Premix fuel in the coastal areas. The warning came after all the 32 chief fishermen met at the pumping station to deliberate on issues affecting the coastal areas and the possible ways to have them resolved. A fight broke after a disagreement between the two parties on how best to make sure that the fuel is sold only to the beneficiaries. In an interview with one of the leaders, Ogbi Emmanuel Anumu Tete said some MMDCs have for some years interfered and are making business with the Premix fuel meant to help fishermen in the southern Volta and have warned that they stay clear of the sale of the fuel.
MC, o do motora kama po mo adama ami manyam o ma ro global via ba mi ayo we don nami avo coordinator la mi le ka onye bo we bona mi dogana da na o ma go ba pon la ta paro ami hama vana mi gbanya mu kata mi ro asheji e na coordinator nto ha ngbeglo ha mi na naga mi anya akona mi.
A boat owner and member of the National Committee, Vance Koku Adeje, also had this to say on a press release by the committee.
Net owner and a member of the Ghana National Canoe Fishermen's Council, a national executive committee member. Recently, we have some issues bedeviling our fisheries activities, and the council at the Volta Regional Chapter has the following as a press release. Press release issued by GNCFC Volta. It has become necessary to bring to the attention of fisheries stakeholders and the general public that Ghana National Canoe Fishermen Council has resolved to institute and implement monitoring and surveillance team towards equal distribution of Premix fuel at the various landing beaches. It is much pleasure of the GMCLC Volta chapter to extend their warmest greetings to all, especially the fishers at the coast, in the fisheries fraternity. In the first place, the council, as the mother of all fishers and fisheries associations, is poised to complain about fuel anomalies in the fisheries sector. On this very note, it is about the sale and distribution of the Premix fuel to the council members. Upon deliberations by all chief fishermen and some net owners at Adina in the Ketu South municipality in the Volta region, under the leadership of Mr. Seth Abochi,
residents of Kwadaso in the Ashanti region want support to complete a fire station to help reduce the risk of losing lives and property. A self-help project initiated by the community has stalled due to lack of funding. The residents want government intervention to activate the fire station.
The self-help project was initiated in 2018 by the Assembly member for Kwadaso North Electoral Area, Fosu Ajaman. The yet-to-be-completed project shares a wall with the Central Military Command and is close to Prempeh College. The Assembly member says he acquired a loan to start the project. He also received support from relatives and philanthropists in the community. The local assembly helped with roofing sheets, but the emergency service project has suffered financial constraints.
That's the pressing need in our community. And as the saying goes, leaders are meant to solve societal problems. So I also saw it as a challenge to put up something which will be more beneficial to the community and other communities at large. If there is an outbreak of fire, by the time the fire calls in, the property might have been lost, and there is no way you can retrieve any of the property. They only come in to save the fire from spreading to other facility or other property. So we saw the need to put up a fire service station on our own, so that in case of any fire outbreak, they come and curtail the problem.
The structure has been roofed and fixed with doors and louver windows. The fire station needs furniture and furnishing, but half of the building is engulfed in weeds. Residents say completion of the project would be of great benefit to them.
The
fire tender at Konfanoche caters for us all. There are about 5 communities in this area. So when the project is completed, it would rather reduce their burden. Just 2 months ago, a metallic container caught fire, but if the project had been completed, the fire could have been doused. The nearest fire station at the enclave is the one at Konfanoche Hospital. Acting Ashanti Regional Fire Commander Henry Giwa says the absence of the fire stations in the Kwadaso municipality and adjoining district increases response time to emergencies.
As far as Kwadaso, the vicinity is very far away from Konfanoche. So normally it increases our response time. But when this one is completed, it's going to really assist us in reducing our response time significantly, so that we'll be able to get to the fire scene as early as possible and be able to rescue and fight the fires as expected.
The Assembly member, Fosu Ajaman, is hopeful the Kwadaso Municipal Assembly will intervene after officially writing for support.
When it got to the completion stage, is there that I realized that it's much capital intensive, and there are also other responsibilities for me to cater for. So I saw the need to call in to bring in the assembly to come and take over the project. So now as I speak, the assembly has taken over the project.
Ewukuma Leaks report for JoyNews.
That's all for the news. My name is Pwalugu Shandoff. I live in the company of Benjamin Akakpo and Mapito CBD.
Welcome to Tuesday morning, time now for the news review. And of course, you know how we do it. Mapito CBD in the house.
Good morning, Benjamin. How you doing?
Oh, well, how about you?
I'm great, thank
Sleep
you.
Well?
Did I? Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did.
Mine was a bit here and there.
Shaky.
The onset of, a cold and all of that. But I had to deal with it.
I hope you dealt with it because I don't want to get infected.
Oh, no. I have these nasal drops together with a few things that I use when there's the onset of it, just to ensure that it doesn't, grip me and put me down.
I hope it doesn't.
It won't.
We need you here.
Cross my heart. And not to die. All right, let's get into the papers this morning. Quite a number of issues to look at. I have the Ghanaian Times newspaper, Graphic Business, the Meridian, and the Daily Statesman. What do you have?
I have Daily Guide, I have the Finder, I also have the Chronicle, Daily Graphic, and my last paper is the Daily Graphic.
Okay, so let's take a look at your stack of papers.
All right, let's start with Daily Guide and the Finder. They have the same story, and bring down hammer on Aisha and Co. That's the top story on the Daily Guide. Also on the Finder, prosecutes Aisha Wang and Co. So that is from the president. Let's see the story on page 3. President Akufo-Addo has backed the decision of the Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame to prosecute Aisha Huang, a notorious player in illegal mining popularly known as Galamsey. According to the president, Aisha should be prosecuted together with her collaborators, and if found guilty, they should be made to face the full rigors of the law, particularly the new Act 995. So now Act 995 is an amendment of the Minerals and Mining Act 2006, Act 703, to increase the penalties for, and in quotes, a person who buys or sells minerals without a license or a valid authority or engages in mining contrary to a provision of the Act, and to provide for related matters. Let me just read this one. Under this Act, which was passed in 2019, persons engaging in illegal mining are liable to 15 to 25 years of custodial sentences. That's an improvement from the minimal penalties, and custodial sentences to the old Act. So 15 to 25 years of custodial sentences. We also have one that says Aisha 1 6 tape ready to bam bam. Okay, so that is a cartoon. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it? Mr. Cameraman, would you like to zoom for me? No. Okay. So yeah, it's Aisha 1 6 tape. We discussed that yesterday, where Kweku Baku says, or is alleging that Aisha 1 must have some sex tapes of some really big men.
That makes for very interesting. I'm curious, but at the same time, like I mentioned yesterday, is there going to be personal preservation, which is paramount to most people, versus communal preservation? And then again, we look at what Galamsey is doing to our landscape, our water bodies, and all of that. And we'll ask ourselves, so for how long are we going to tolerate this? And the fact that she comes, whether sneaking in or coming in with official recognition into our country once more, it's really sad. It tells you about how broken our system really is. But the impunity. Anyway, let's check out some other stuff.
We also
later today, when I engage Mr. Ahiagba, hopefully we can also delve into some of these issues.
Hopefully. And another interesting story is a story on page 6. A woman 32 murdered 10 days after wedding.
Whoa.
It's a very, very sad story. A 32-year-old immigration officer has been murdered in cold blood in her husband's house 10 days after marriage. A suspected murderer allegedly dumped her bloody body in the room of her rival, the first wife of her husband, at Abeka. Those who attended the colorful marriage ceremony on August 26, 2022 did not know they would soon be attending the Islamic funeral for the bride. So literally 10 days after getting married, she was found murdered in her rival's.
Are there any details about, how this came to be? Who was the accused? Who was the suspect?
Okay, so let me continue. The deceased was found with a deep cut on her throat and her thigh, and an iron rod was also said to have been pushed into her head. According to the brother of the deceased, the family suspects foul play. He added that the family will resist any attempt at burying the deceased hurriedly. They have therefore called on the police service to investigate the case. And so this is the brother saying that, I had a call around 9 p.m. that my sister has been stabbed. So I thought it was a mere thing. To my surprise, she was killed in the room and dragged into a different room in the compound house, the rival's room.
The rival's room?
Yes. Obviously the rival.
So I'm supposing whoever married her had multiple wives.
Just one wife.
Just one wife.
Which is the first wife.
Okay.
So the murdered came in as a second wife.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But
so
because
she now became the rival, so to speak.
The first wife.
Yes, so both of them are
rivals
yes,
to
speak.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So
because obviously with her throat slit and something pushed into her head, that can't be natural.
Of course not. So
and you know what is pretty interesting here? You know, according to Islamic rituals or rites, you're buried within 12 hours after, is it 12 or 24 hours after your demise?
Yeah, I think so.
But very hurriedly. But in this instance, the family is calling for that to be set aside, for an autopsy and all of that to be conducted. And I think that makes sense, of course. They need to get down to the bottom of it, what, actually led to her demise.
Yeah, so hopefully they can work on that and we can get details and the family can,
So sad.
I mean, it's terrible.
10 days after wedding.
Can you imagine, like your happiest, well, for most women, your happiest day, and then 10 days later, oh, I don't even want to.
Well,
yeah.
We can only, condole with the family and wish them the very best. And hopefully, sometimes it's I forget the word, but getting to the bottom of it gives you some closure. That is what I'm looking for. Some closure, getting to the bottom of it. And if the killer is identified and punished accordingly, if there was foul play, then at least it'll bring them some closure. But let's get into the Canadian Times newspaper. A lot of food for thought. National Cathedral will be built at all costs. President vows. The last time we checked, we put the sums of money together. It would have cost us some $547 million, including compensation for those whose buildings were razed to the ground and other claims that have been made, all of that. People whose offices had been in that area who are now likely any judgment debts or whatever that could arise from those. But
so what, 540?
$7 million.
Okay.
Yeah, as per our last calculation.
Okay.
And he says it will be seen through. I'll give you some details of that story. 8.8 million Ghanaians live in slums. That's according to a latest NDPC report. And will prosecute Aisha Huang, others. President throws weight behind AG. Lembele, DCE clears air on missing excavators. Let's start
Benjamin,
with what
before you give us details, let's welcome our guest, Liz Efron Asari, who's a media consultant. Good morning, Madam. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Liz.
Welcome back, Ben.
Thank you, Liz. Good to have you on board again. So we're just talking about some stories in the Daily Guide and this unfortunate happening of a woman getting married and 10 days later being found dead. But I just started with the Ghanaian Times newspaper. I'll bring some details on those stories quickly and we'll take it from there. So we'll prosecute Aisha Huang. Others, president throws weight behind AG. And the president has lent his full support to the AG to prosecute persons found to be engaging in illegal mining in the country. Speaking at the 2022 Bar Conference of the Ghana Association, that is the Ghana Bar Association, yesterday, President Akufo-Addo noted that the onset of the Fourth Republic, some 29 years ago, Ghana had witnessed the longest period of stability and economic growth. According to him, during this period of the Fourth Republic, we have witnessed sustained growth in the size of the economy, rising levels of per capita real income, systematic expansion, and all of that. But he also made mention of the fact that, on the contrary, the government is in full support of responsible small-scale mining activities as they provide an avenue for Ghanaians to participate in the mining industry and contribute substantially to our gold exports. So we know about community mining, we know about small-scale mining, but there's the other aspect of it, which is galamsey, and that is what has become rather problematic. I'm sure you followed the entire issue to do with Aisha Huang coming back into the country, whether sneaking or getting in officially. What is your take? And is it enough for Mr. President to say, Mr. AG, go ahead, deal with them ruthlessly, when in fact we had the opportunity to do so in the first instance. We let her slip through our fingers, and Senior Minister Yao Safo-Mafu came out to say that it's not incarcerating her that will solve our problems, so to speak. Your take, Liz.
I think that we have discussed this thing in, out, up, down, and I was wondering why it had to take the president to say that she must be prosecuted, because if she has been caught a second time, I mean, let the law take its course. I mean, anybody who is found doing something untoward in the country has to face the law, and they shouldn't take the president to put a backing to it. We should let the law take its course. We should stand firm as Ghanaians and make sure that the right things for us is done. And so for me, it's neither here nor there. I didn't expect them to do anything other than prosecute her this time. And I would say that when you look at the circumstances within which she came in, whether she sneaked in or not, I believe that she got some help from somewhere. And so we should be looking for those who are helping her. Because if we prosecute her and incarcerate her, I have seen cases where even from prison, people have been able to continue with their businesses, be it illegal or legal. So we should be able to get hold of her accomplices, because I believe she does have accomplices. She just can't come into Ghana and start illegal mining without any help, because then where does she start from? So we need to make sure that we round everybody up and deal with this thing once and for all.
Okay, doke. Two quick stories and it's a wrap. So President Akufo-Addo has reasserted his determination to build the National Cathedral. He said the National Cathedral project was something dear to his government, stressing that it would be built at all costs to the glory and honor of God. That's the first story. The second one on page 17, 8.8 million Ghanaians live in slums, and the number of people living in slums increased from 5.5 million in 2017 to 8.8 million in 2020. Ghana's 2022 Voluntary National Review Report on the Sustainable Development Goals implementation has actually revealed. Now, the figure represents an increase of about 60%, according to the report, which is compiled and published by the National Development Planning Commission. The UN Programme on Human Settlements defines a slum as, quote, a contiguous settlement where the inhabitants are characterized as having inadequate housing and basic services. So that is the situation there. It tells you as well about how we have failed as a country when it comes to affordable housing. Your quick reactions to these two stories, and it's a wrap for this paper.
The first one, the National Cathedral, I'll just say that if a blind man says that he'll throw a stone, he must have his foot on one. So the president must know something that we don't, because we are looking at other priorities that we think that we have in hospitals and schools and other basic infrastructure that people need, and linking it to the slums. We know that we need to put more money into a housing deficit so that people will get proper accommodations and proper places to sleep. So it will be built at all costs, at whose expense? Is my question. And therefore, I think that if the president has all the details for it, then he must let us know exactly what it's going to be, and it wouldn't be at the taxpayers' expense, because there are other things that we need our taxes for. Talking about the slums, I'm not surprised that we have had more slums come up, because if you look at where our residential areas used to be, a lot of those residential areas have been turned into offices and their office projects. If you look at all our residential areas, you see big offices and shops and things like that. So people are being pushed out of where they used to live. And if people are moving outside of Accra, and you have people who are coming in and don't have anywhere to stay because they are not all that well to do, then you have the slums growing. And if you have slums growing, it means that we have failed as a people, because then we don't have affordable housing for those who can't be living in those residential areas. And if you move out of the residential areas, you realize that the lands on the periphery are what people will use. Anything they come by, they will settle on, and that is what is happening now. And so our slums are growing and our residential areas are being turned into non-residential areas, more offices and more official buildings and shops and all kinds of things.
Well, it's interesting, Mapito. So as she says all of this, we also know that, the National Cathedral project has stalled in a way because of funding, partly owing to funding. Recently, we heard from the person in charge and how contributions are trickling in and all of that. And we also heard from, I think, Reverend Dr. Joyce Aye about the fact that they want the rest of it, apart from the seed money, to come from ordinary Ghanaians, individuals, people of goodwill. The question is, now that the project seems to have run out of funding, and there also is that trickle effect when it comes to funding pouring in, and the cost of material now, iron rods, cement, everything is skyrocketing. Put that side by side with Mr. President saying that we are going to do this. Like you said, maybe his leg is on some stone, and he knows what he's talking about. Liz actually made mention of that. But let's check out some other stories.
All right, let's go to the Daily Graphic. And stop attacks on judiciary. That's according to the president, who has asked the citizens to disregard persons who make remarks against the judiciary and the Electoral Commission for selfish and partisan reasons. He said independent judges administering the law, protecting the human rights of citizens and ensuring public accountability were strong pillars of the country's democracy. Also on page 20, Special Prosecutor asks Customs to resume action or auction of vehicles. You can get that story on page 20. And the last one is continuous voter registration begins end of the year. The EC will commence the continuous voter registration exercise by the end of the year. Mrs. Mensah said the exercise, which was meant to replace the limited voter registration system that had been used since 1992, would ensure an all-year-round registration of Ghanaians who turn 18 years and those who had not been previously registered. Liz, do you have any thoughts on our three stories? Stop attacks on judiciary. Special prosecutor asks Customs to resume auction of vehicles, and continuous voter registration begins end of year.
It would have been interesting to know a little detail on why the Customs are asking for the reopening of the auctions of the vehicles. Have they done their investigations and found that there's nothing untoward, and therefore they're calling for the reopening of auctions? If they haven't done, if they have done, I mean, what was the outcome of the investigations? Because I haven't heard anything with regard to that. So you stop auctioning and then you start auctioning, and the question is why? What has changed? What is different? So he probably needs to explain to us exactly what.
So let me read from page 20, the investigations part. The OSP also asked the division to comply with the ongoing investigations. The Customs Division should cooperate with and work closely with authorized officers of the OSP in respect of the investigations and the conduct of auction sales. The OSP has been investigating suspected corruption and corruption-related offences in respect of the auction sale of vehicles and other goods by the Customs Division of the GRA between July 1, 2016 and August 15, 2022. The last paragraph reads, on August 19, 2022, the Special Prosecutor directed the Commissioner of the Customs Division to halt all auction sales to aid investigation into suspected corruption and corruption-related offences. So that's all it gives us.
So it means that the investigations have not been concluded. So the question is, why are we reopening the auctions? Because I would have thought that we would want to put an end to the rot that is happening before we start re-auctioning or reopening the auction. The issue with the judges, I don't think I have much to say. I think that the judges themselves need to defend their integrity and stand tall. When people start to point fingers at the judiciaries because they probably are not settled in themselves, or because we do not see the judiciary as standing tall and being as independent as we expect them to be. So if the judiciary is being singled out by some, what are the reasons for their being singled out? I think that the judiciary needs to protect its own integrity, stand tall, deal with its issues without fear or favor. And then when they are pointed out, I believe that they should be able to come out and speak for themselves and say exactly what has caused them to do certain things, so that people won't continue to try to color them. I believe that it behoves on the judiciary to come out and make sure that they're standing tall, they're standing clean, and everybody gives them the respect they deserve.
Let's check out some more stories now. Graphic business is next, and Ghana's SME sector faces $6.1 billion US dollar funding gap. That's according to the World Bank. And there's a bit of a chart there. So SMEs constitute about 90% of businesses. Then 80%, they employ more than 80% of the workforce. They contribute more than 70% to GDP. And Access Bank, for example, has disbursed about $50 million to SMEs under its collateral-free loan scheme, and more than 6,500 have benefited from the loan scheme. That's according to data from the World Bank and reflecting Ghana's SME sector. Access Bank Graphic Business SME Clinic and the SMEs secure collateral-free loans, and that story there as well. Ghana Club 100 Awards revived. Nominations open for applicants. I think I'm going to be nominating Mapito CBD for different reasons.
They said what? Ghana?
Ghana Club 100 Awards revived. Of course, it has to do with companies, entities, and all of that. Okay. But I know you're going to be a business tycoon soon, a business mogul. You should be saying that, man. You should
relax.
Be saying
I was about to say I tap into it. I received a message.
We'll have businesses in South Africa, Ghana, Kenya, Rwanda, all over the place. Commonwealth must recalibrate to benefit member states. That's according to Dr. Ankra, especially on the back of the demise of Queen Elizabeth II, who reigned for some 70 years. Most people don't live up to 70 nowadays, and her reign alone was as 70, long as 70 years. That's interesting. GCB Capital sees August inflation at 34%. I'll take a quick look at that story and give an interesting thought to the bit about the Commonwealth and the Queen. Let me turn to page 23. Yes, here it is. So GCB Capital has projected a strong jump in inflation to 34% for August. The investment arm of the largely state-owned lender, GCB Bank, said it expected the increased CD depreciation to combine with other inflationary pressures to spike the rate for August. Inflation peaked at 31.7% in July, and I'm awaiting the August figure after resuming an upward trend in November last year. With the next reading due for September 14, GCB Capital said nothing showed that the upward trajectory would reverse. So here's my concern. Inflation is still going up. We expect it to slow a bit getting to the tail end of the year, but it's not showing any signs yet. On the other hand, we enjoyed a bit of stability, a bit of depreciation of other currencies against our CD when we got the 750 million Afreximbank loan. But all of a sudden, the dollar, the euro, the pound have bounced back again, and it's not looking so good. Your quick thoughts on that? I want practical. I always want the practical aspect of it. How is this reflecting in your life, Liz?
In my life, I think that I'm managing. I'm going by. I mean, every day you go out, the prices of things have changed, and like you said, there was a slow, but it's picking up again. And I would say that I believe that our inflation is because we still are not looking at what we are producing and patronizing what we are producing. We are still bent on getting things from outside. Again, I think that our inflation, the fuel is not helping much because we are exporting crude and we are importing finished products, and it comes at a cost. And then again, I realized that a few of the people who can are now saving their monies in dollars instead of in cedis. And so you realize that the dollar still will be scarce because people think that in the long run, if they have the dollar and the CD keeps depreciating, they still have their money at the safe because they have converted it into dollars. And so we would still grapple a bit with our inflation and our depreciation of the CD. And if we do not take steps to ensure that we are more into CDs rather than into dollars, it will continue for a while. Again, even when you're talking about small and medium enterprises, you realize that they import half-finished products and then finish up the products. So they also are importing. And their raw materials for production and things are being imported, and then they put finished products on the market. And that also raises the cost of production. And so the things that are even made in Ghana are not cheap. And you might even get cheaper imports than the product produced from our country. And that is what is probably hurting us a lot. If we would start using our products from scratch,
right,
then we probably will be adding value to what we ourselves have, to our resources that we have. But that is not what we are doing. We are exporting our raw materials, importing half processed, and then finishing it up. So that again would continue to escalate inflation and put cost of living high.
So just to wrap very briefly on this comment, Queen Elizabeth, so the Commonwealth must recalibrate to benefit member states. That's according to Dr. Sam Ankra, a development economist who has said the death of the Queen should be an opportunity for the incoming leadership of the Commonwealth to recalibrate the association to make it more meaningful and impactful for member states. I watched, and there have been different opinions on the passing of the Queen. Some who said she was beloved, others who said she was a figure representative of imperialism. I watched a TikTok video of an Iraqi, I think she's a British citizen, but her roots are from Iraq. And she says for her, she doesn't see what all the fanfare is about, especially as you know, Britain colonized Iraq after they took it from the Ottoman Turks, and that the atrocities and everything that they stand for, a lot of that was during her time. And you know that Ghana, we gained our independence in 1957. And the person was simply saying that if we will laud her for the good things, we must also chastise her for the bad things. In terms of memories, how do you feel about this, Queen Elizabeth II?
In time, my memories.
Yes.
I think that a good thing is the PR that was done for her was positive. And therefore, if you look at the documentaries that are coming out, we are only seeing the positives. Again, people do not like to remember their pain. And I agree that if we are praising her for the good sides, we should be chastising her for the bad, because we don't want that to recur. And so we need to balance it. But I think on the whole, 70 years on the throne, I have seen a good side of her. I have seen a positive side of her being portrayed. I have seen some aspects of her that puts her above many, because you see her relating to the high and mighty, and you see her relating to the very low. So for me, I would give her that respect. She probably did carry herself well. The atrocities that were done in the past, let us leave in the past. We can mend and heal if we want to, or we can hold on to it and decide not to move from there. But I believe that we need to move from there. And therefore, call for a recalibration of the Commonwealth is a very good thing. And I think that the voices of those who belong to the Commonwealth should be more pronounced. They should be heard also. They should be the voice of us who have been colonized and have suffered all kinds of atrocities as a result of colonization. But again, we need to be able to get ourselves out of that and make sure that we are standing on our feet. Because if you're looking at us right now as a country, Ghana in the Commonwealth, we have gained political independence, but we haven't gained any other independence. Economically, we are dependent on so many things. And so if we want to make noise and if we want to blow a trumpet, then we should be working harder than we are right now.
Thank you very much, Liz. Well, I don't have many stories left here, but it's just to find out what's the big story being prosecutes Aisha Huang and co. And we also have MPA chases 45 OMCs over 68 million Ghana CD debt. And the last one is farmers count their losses after the spillage of the Bagri Dam. Benjamin.
Okie doke. Let's look at the Meridian newspaper now. And wager dam compensation paid to unknown miscreants. Ashali Blafo family calls for investigations. And these stories always get me, excited and thinking about our land tenure system and how all of these things tend to happen. But, that's how it's possible sometimes to purchase land 1, 2, 3, 4, basically multiple times from different sources.
Yeah.
But anyway, that is what the Ashali Blafo family is talking about. They're calling for investigations. And pictured here, Jasiche, an acting chief of Wager, Ogbedada Bwafo Danyinanse, the first pictured there. NPA to name and shame defaulting OMCs, oil marketing companies. Aisha Huang's arrest, small-scale miners. President apologizes to government officials over false allegations, and then will overcome current economic challenges, Akufo-Addo assures. Let's get into a few of the stories. So the MPA is to name and shame defaulting OMCs, and the authority wishes to advise the underlisted 45 oil marketing companies. I'm not going to mention their names because I can't mention all of them, so I'll not mention some and leave others.
Yeah.
But who are indebted to the primary distribution margin fund to settle their debts by the 30th of September 2022, basically by close of month. And then there is that issue, will overcome current economic challenges. In fact, that will be my final story. That's from Mr. President. But for me, Ghana 4, and to you, Liz, and to you, Mapito Sibidi, I wish sometimes when we talk about these, we would do rather than talk. We would do rather than say we will do. I don't know, what do you think? Over to you, Mapito and Liz. I'll start with you, Liz.
I agree. I think that we speak too much. There are too many words and very little action. And so we are always talking, and that's why we are always going around in circles, because we speak, do nothing, and we are at square one. We are marking time and just talking and not doing anything about it. So I agree with you. We need to deal with the issues as they come. And if we do not nip it in the bud and it festers, then it becomes more difficult to deal with. And that is our being. It says a stitch in time saves 9. And we do not do the stitch in time, and therefore we have the 9 stitches, and even with the 9 stitches, we probably would wait till they're 15 or 20. And so we need to deal with issues. When we speak it, we need to deal with it there and then. If we don't, then too bad for us.
Too bad for us.
If we don't, too bad for us. Your thoughts?
Liz has said everything. Yeah, Liz has said everything. And on that note, we'd like to say thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much, Liz. I know you don't follow too much football, but I'm trying to rope you in to support Kumasi Asante Kotoko, because if you care to know, I think, was it Aduana Stars that pipped Accra Hearts of Oak? You support Accra Hearts of Oak?
No, I support Kotoko.
All right, so Aduana Stars, I think, beat Accra Hearts of Oak. First match of the season, and the Phobian boys lost. And we, of course, won a Champions League match against Beninese side Kadiogo. My director is whispering into my ear that it was a lucky goal, but all goal be goal.
That's
so
right.
We won the match.
To get you the 3 points.
3 points in the bag, and that's it. Anyway, thank you so much, Liz. Let me add my voice.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You
do
too.
same.
Thank you.
Mapito,
Yeah.
this was a good one.
Boza.
All right, so up next we have sports.
Yeah.
Which local team do you support?
I said Kotokola.
Kumasi Asante Kotoko.
Yeah. My blood is red.
I've always had, those with multicolored blood in the
Me Asante Hema.
We Asante Hema.
Me Asante
Hema.
Me Hema.
Mapito Sibidi flaunting her stuff. Well, sports is up next. We'll be telling you about the Ghana Premiership and bringing you international sporting news as well. Do stay.
Good morning. It is AM Sports here with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullah. Kumasi Asante Kotoko earned an away victory over RC Kadiogo of Burkina in the first leg of the CAF Champions League qualifying match on Monday afternoon. The Porcupine Warriors found a late winner through winger Isaac Opon at the General Keruku Stadium in Benin. The Burkinabe side looked the stronger team in the early exchanges, but Seydou Zebo's men showed grit and discipline to keep Kadiogo at bay. With the game set to be heading for a stalemate, Opon popped up in an injury time to slot home the winner. Kotoko will hold the return leg in Kumasi on Sunday. The winner of the tie over 2 legs will face the winner of AS Vista Club versus Kaborone FC game for a place in the group stages of the competition. And still on Kumasi Asante Kotoko, a former chief executive officer of the club, Opokunti, has called on supporters to lower their expectations despite a winning start to their CAF Champions League campaign. The Porcupines, as you heard just a couple of minutes ago, secured a 1-0 victory over Kadiogo FC. However, Opokunti, who won the Champions League with the club in 1983, warned supporters to be cautious of their expectations.
Our expectation, we need to lower it, but to give our maximum support to them, because you can't go, immediately start from number 2, number 3. You have to start from number 1. You get me? If number 1 goes well, number 2 will come, and that is where you see that we are jeering. The expectation, everyone will expect that we win, but they also need our support to push the players so that our expectation will not come short, but they will come out with flying colors. So the expectation should be there, but we should support the team at any given time, at any cost. The supporting the team, the players will also feel like they are welcome and they also give their best for the team. As I said, they have to take match after match. You get me? And because the team is new, they have to, if they will gel, it means they have to continue winning, going to the next stages. Other than that, it will be very, very difficult. So they have to take one match at a time and improve upon it. Then gradually they will reach that stage.
We come back to Ghana, where there was a Ghana Premier League match between Brekum Chelsea, 2012 winners of the Premier League, and they came up against King Faisal, securing a 2-0 victory at the Nana Adjuma Mbedu Stadium. Mizak Afriye and Ewa Dramani struck to send Brekum Chelsea to the top of the Premier League table as they become the first team to score 2 goals since the beginning of the Premier League on Saturday.
10 minutes gone, is Brekum Chelsea 0, King Faisal 0. Thank you for joining us. We are at the Nana Adjuma Mbedu, the first park, or the number 1 park, as Brekum Chelsea come forward again. Another opportunity, but this time it's clear enough. Dead on target. It's the first goal of the game, and Brekum Chelsea will laugh all the way to the bank at this stage. Meshak Afriye on target. And it's now another opportunity for them to come forward. Meshach pushes it on a bit too fast. Oh, situation must be cleared. Well, it took a while before breaking Chelsea. They get another goal, and the dancing, the jubilation will continue. Well, they had many an opportunity to utilize. Meshach missed the first, Ouattara missed the second. Meshach laid on the pass, which was good enough thinking. And who else but Dramani Ewua to slot it home? Of course, Jabal made himself big in the first instance, but on the second instance, that's it. 90 minutes of action. Brecum Chelsea win their first 3 points of the season. These ladies have been singing from start to finish, and it looks like their tenacity has paid off. Brecum Chelsea will make that short journey back to Brecum with smiles on their faces.
To the camp of the national team with the Black Stars, just a couple of months ago, 6 players switched nationality to play for Ghana ahead of the FIFA World Cup. 5 of those players have been called up by the technical team for the friendly matches that will be played later this month against Brazil and Nicaragua. Many people actually believe that the decision of the players to switch nationality to Ghana is to secure a place in the national team for the FIFA World Cup that will be staged in Qatar. But assistant coach Joy Boateng insists no player is guaranteed an opportunity of starting in the national team.
Everybody is very simple. The criteria is that everybody is fighting for a place. Whether you switch nationality now or whether you have 50 caps already for Ghana, it doesn't matter. Every camp you have to prove yourself to prove that you deserve to be called up. It's important that everybody knows this. It doesn't mean that because you've switched nationality that you want to represent Ghana, that you are going to be picked and you are going to play automatically. This is not what we are for. We are trying to build a team that have resilience and discipline, but also we want to be transparent to everybody and treat everybody the same. So therefore, it's not a guarantee that anyone who has switched nationality to represent Ghana, that you'll be automatically picked and you are going to play for the national team. Ghana now holds the record of being the African team that has reached the quarterfinals, right? They've made history. Now, it would be unfair for me to say, or no, it would be unrealistic for me to say that we are going to do better than what we did last time, or we are going to the semi-final. I think what I can say is that it's more realistic for me to say that you will see, as a nation, you will see a team in Qatar that will represent Ghana and that everybody will be proud watching the national team play. The boys will be ready, they will fight, they will compete, and there will be not a single game that the boys will go out there and not play their heart out. This is what I can promise you. Other than that, I think the result then hopefully will look after itself.
In 2023, 54 African countries are expected to assemble in Ghana for the 2023 Africa Games. Well, as many as 25 sporting disciplines will be competing, and thousands of athletes will be competing for honors for themselves as well as their various countries. Well, many have said that Ghana is behind schedule to host the Games expected to start in August 2023. However, Director General of the National Sports Authority, Peter Chumesi, insists Ghana has got enough facilities to host the Games even if the Olympic Stadium currently being constructed in Boteman is not ready.
You remember when at the time when we were in Morocco and the whole African Union honored Ghana to become the very first country, first in the history to host all Africa for this particular African Olympics, the African Games. And I think people have forgotten what they based their decisions on. It was not out of nothing that they said, Ghana, go and host it. They knew what Ghana can do. Ghana has hosted, in terms of football, Africa, AFCON, how many times? I think we've done it about, how many? 2 or, not less than 2. And 2008, I think you remember President Kufuor's time, we hosted it. And everybody was very cheerful. And they know our capacity, what can we do? So even the existing facilities that we had was enough for them to be able to have confidence in Ghana that we can do it. But as we have indicated, the president has said that for him, during his term in office, he wants to expand sporting infrastructure. Because it is when you have the sports infrastructure that you can now have a reliable, sustainable teams. Preparation, production of athletes who will continue to give you the medals and the laurels. So that is the agenda of this government. That no matter what, we take opportunity of anything and then add on whatever facility that is needed. Already what we have, if we were to look at even only to the ones that we have, they are more than enough for us to be able to host the African Games. Talk about the Accra Sports Stadium. Baba Yara here can do almost all the athletics. Yeah. We've seen it. Here, all the athletics competitions. You can do the track and field. But you saw, this is bigger than Alexandria Stadium that we saw. I think you all know about it. You understand that? We are not restricted. Okay. No, we are not restricted. When we went to Morocco, it was a Rabat, Morocco. But we did some of the games even in Casablanca. We did in other 3 different other locations. That one, you see that the Ghana's original plan was that we were even to host it in 3 cities. The triangle. We were to have it in Accra, Cape Coast, and Kumasi.
And the plan has changed.
And that's the point that even Otunvo is not happy about the fact that everything is moving away from Asanteman. Because we also had a stake. If you look at the bid that they approved, Cape Coast was part. And then Kumasi. And then even Tamale later even came with even a request that they should also be added.
Okay, so
it is at this part, at some point that I think the narration has changed and said, why don't we do everything in Accra? Ghana is not bound by any such regulation that you can't do it anywhere that you choose. You can. If Ghana decides that it will put all the athletics, field and track and field in Kumasi, which I would love to have it, because my backyard. I would love to have it here. The people who have also visited you will also take opportunity of this game to see Ghana. If you come to Ghana without coming to the Manisha Palace, I'm sure you haven't really come here. If I'm speaking for our sentiment, that's what I would say. So that diversity, I think we need it. But notwithstanding, what we have in Accra, even is more than enough. Now, the University of Ghana Stadium is being refurbished, and the president has helped to vote funds for us to complete it. We are completed, so we can take almost all those kind of track and fields if you want decide to do that.
Ghana's Uleman Ponsa took part in a Great North Run that took place in Newcastle over the weekend. It was an assembly of 60,000 athletes, and the Ghanaian came 8th. He's been speaking to my colleague George Ade Jr. about the excitement of meeting his icon when it comes to long-distance racing, as well as his position.
That's Kenenisa Bekele. I think before we even go to the start, I saw him, and then he was just sitting down. So I greeted him, and he said hi. I said hi. I've been looking at you since I was in JHS and all that. He was like, wow, it's good. So when I got to the start, I've actually spoken with him already. So yeah. So I was so glad to see him and all of that. And even after the race, I even got the opportunity to take a picture with him.
Yeah, George, if you watch the first 5K of the race, you'll see that William is running right next to him.
Yeah, that's what I was going to.
Any of the other runners, he's running right next to Bekele for the first 5K.
That's what I was going straight to. So William, take us through the race then.
When it got to the last 3K, I knew I was at the 8th, and you'll be even hear people talking about it. You are 8th, top 10, 8th, top 10, and I was like, yeah. So I knew, but someone was chasing me. If you can check from the time, you can see I ran 1 hour 3 and 1:05. The person also did 1 hour 3 and 1:06. So where I was determined to stay there. So as the guy was chasing me, I think he actually forced me to go more.
Let's go to Europe, where there will be UEFA Champions League football happening tonight as well as tomorrow. These are the fixtures. Liverpool will come up against Ajax Amsterdam. It is a night Kudus Mohamed would want to give up his best because it was the same Anfield that he got injured and it affected his career till date. Bayer Leverkusen will also come up against Atletico Madrid. There's FC Porto versus Club Brugge. There is Victoria Pleasant versus Inter Milan. Bayern Munich will come up against Barcelona. Could it be a repeat of what the world witnessed in 2020? During the COVID-82, Barcelona suffered a defeat. Sporting Lisbon versus Tottenham Hotspur. And Claire, if Fatau Issahaku would be a part of that squad for the game. There's Olympique Marseille versus Eintracht Frankfurt. Eintracht Frankfurt, they are the defending champions of the Europa League. They won the Europa League last season, beating Rangers, and by that, they're partaking in the UEFA Champions League. This is how we wrap up AM Sports here with me, Muftau Nabila Abla. The show continues right after this.
How do you feel about this arrest?
Sad because it shouldn't have happened the way it happened. It was so avoidable. Why do I say so? I was performing my legitimate duties as a chairman of Olamide, who was himself under investigation for missing excavators. So once I got wind of the excavators moving out of my district, instinctively, I knew I needed to take reasonable steps to have evidence. First, to confirm whether it's indeed one of the missing excavators which was being transported. And how could I have done that? I could only do that by taking pictures and videos. And this was a moving vehicle. So I had to go take videos and pictures. That's all I did. I never obstructed the police in any way, as was claimed in the police statement. It was only a video that I took. The first point of the video was just after Ankobra, where I took the video myself in my car, and then I stopped my car, went to the other side to get the details of the excavator. That's all my interest. The whole action lasted for just 1 minute, 6 seconds. So at that point that the police decided that they should arrest me. So I had to run into my car to move to the nearest town.
Okay.
Because this was in the middle of nowhere. I didn't know what was going to happen to me. They were very armed. There was no confrontation. I mean, why would I even go and confront armed policemen? So there was no confrontation. Even at the point of my arrest, I didn't resist. Except that it was so dramatic, they put handcuffs. And I was saying, you don't need to handcuff me to arrest me. For heaven's sake, I am a DC who is performing his legitimate duties. So if, for whatever it is, the police feel obstructed, for whatever it is, and you want to arrest me, they could have easily even invited me. I would have made in any case, I was already under police self-cognizance bail because I had been arrested earlier on this same excavator issue. So it's unfortunate and it's sad. It's really sad that it happened the way it happened.
But if you're doing your duty or you're performing your duty as the DC or the head of DISEC for the area, why did you approach them with facts?
What is the definition of tax? I mean, and I think that part of the statement, the police maybe have to come again. My driver, the 4 people that were arrested together with me, one is my driver. I don't drive by nature of my work. I have an assigned driver. It's part of my conditions of service. So I'm not supposed to drive. So my driver, is my driver a tag? My personal assistant that the police refer to as my personal assistant, who has been, is a member of the district mining committee, who has also been arrested twice in this matter. He's the first person to go to the illegal mining site and then stop the people from operating. He was also performing his duties, his legal duties as a member of the district mining committee, duly established by an act of parliament, Mr. Francis Apeni. Is he a tag? No. Then 2 others, Mr. Francis Jefferson and then Robert Amo. Robert Amo was the one who I sent to go and take pictures, the very pictures that we gave to the police to enable them to retrieve Mr. Robert Amo. Another one, Jeff. Jeff is a polling station organizer. He spotted the excavator at Ezema and called me 6:30. All that information I gave to the police. So these are people, they were not even organized. It was spontaneous. Everybody was, because the police had earlier on issued a statement that I was under investigation for those missing excavators, everybody became alert. So that as soon as they saw the excavator moving, the question that one asks is, we're all looking for the same excavator. At the time, if I had been informed that the police had retrieved one of the excavators, I'm not sure I would have gone to look for evidence. I didn't even know that it was the police. Of course, I saw a police car, but they were not in uniform, and it could have been anybody. So I never obstructed, would never organize talks. My driver and Mr. Penny, who himself is a subject of investigation of this matter, and then two others who spotted it, and they were on motorbikes, on one motorbike. Indeed, Mr. Apeni, he came there on his own in a taxi, because he was also following to get to, of course, exonerate himself. My brother, if you have been accused of being complicit in missing excavator, and you see the same excavator being transported out of your locality, what will you do? Tell me, what will you do? Every rational human being will look for evidence. Because earlier on, when we brought the police to take over, to watch over the machines, because we didn't take pictures of the machines together with the police, it became their word against my word. So this time, I wanted to prevent, and we are where we are, whereby the truth, every truth is coming out because of the action to take the videos. That is what I think infuriated them, and they took the action that they took.
But if you say you have no knowledge of what's happening, why does your name keep coming up in everything that has to do with Galamsey in Elembele?
Because I've been fighting Galamsey. I've been fighting Galamsey. As a DCE, all Galamsey operation that has gone on, I have been the person writing official complaint. I've had to go to court to testify against Galamsey on several occasions. So my record of fight against Galamsey is well known, it's well documented, everybody is aware. But of course, in doing that, you step on some toes. We all know that Galamsey activity is a complex activity. It's an underworld. There are a lot of people behind it. Look, if you arrest one Galamseyer, the number of people who call you to intervene on his behalf, you have no idea. And they cuts across party lines, across religions, across sphere of all walks of life. So you should know that once you are on that mission, you step on some toes, and then the interesting part was that there was an attempt to blackmail me so that I could probably shy away from the fight. How would they do that? By accusing me of being one of them. I'm sure by now, in this matter, knowing what has happened, if I had been involved, it should have been something that would have implicated me in this matter. So, in any case, this issue is not going to cow me into stopping the fight. I'm rather more invigorated, because the dangers of Galamsey, the effect, the negative impact of Galamsey on our environment, on our water bodies, on lands, the degradation, is something of great concern that every Ghanaian should be concerned. You cannot make your money at the expense of society. If you want to do mining, go through the process and acquire a concession so that your activities will be regulated, whether small-scale mining, medium or large-scale mining. That is the way to go. If you want, mining is a legitimate business. Mining is it's not an illegal business, but the process of doing it. So I will encourage anybody who is interested in doing any mining activity in my district, go through the due process, get your concession, register with EPA, Minerals Commission, everything, and get your work done so that nobody will come and disturb you. Other than that, we will not relent in this fight against illegal mining that is raising its head in our district.
You're creating the impression as though some people want to implicate you in this manner. Who do you suspect is behind all of this?
I have no knowledge of whoever. I'm not creating that impression. I'm only proving my innocence. Why did I go and take the picture? I went to take the video because I anticipated that if the machine left, there was no way I could say anything and anybody would believe me.
No, I was asking the question because you mentioned earlier that it looks like some people wanted to blackmail you.
I'm saying there are several people who have written petitions to the president. In fact, in the last 2 or 3 months, there have been about 2 petitions. My response to the petition has been like this. Like almost like a project work, where I've catalogued all my activities in the fight against illegal mining to show that it cannot be true. That Fortunately, now it's all coming out. Everybody, now people have observed your action for that long, for the past 4 years. The one testifying that DC Bonzo is not involved in Galamsey, that is the one who's been fighting Galamsey, that have an attempt to tarnish his image, just because those who are doing it think that he's a thorn in their flesh. Look, if you may recall, or your viewers may recall that on the 1st of April, there was a certain incident at the court in Crawford Magistrate Court, where some arrested Galamseyers were before trial, and there was some riot which led to one person dying. Right from the court, the irate youth, the angry youth, they came to my office to attack me, that I'm a thorn in their flesh. If I was one of them, would they come and attack me? No. So at some point, my own life has been in danger. But of course, if it's something that you have to die for, something that it's a principle that I'll be ready to die for. Because illegal mining, the negative effect, is too bad for us to entertain it and tolerate it anyway.
The president said he has put his presidency on the line to fight Galamsey. How do you think what is happening in your districts puts the president fight, or how does that aid or negatively impact the president's fight against Galamsey?
It's rather positive. I think I've worked very hard not to disappoint the president. The president have had a lot of confidence in me. My first nomination, my second nomination, all the issues surrounding it. So I should be the last person to sabotage the president in that fight. That is why I have fought, and I've promised that I'll fight till my last blood, because I believe it's a fight that we must win. But I can't do it alone. It has to be a concerted effort. Remember, in this matter, and my very last interview on this matter before was on the pause on this station. And Bless was the one who interviewed me. What I said was that, given all the evidence that we have provided to the police, I was convinced that the police will find the excavators. Fortunately, they found it. So it means that when you are doing something right, you speak with a lot of confidence. And I know that we are on the right course. That there are people in government who are standing up to this Galamsey menace, just like the president put his presidency online.
But they found only one. There are 2 excavators. Where's the other one?
It has to be found. I believe that the process through which, the intelligence, everything that through which they're able to find the first excavator, the same process will help them find the second excavator, so that we can bring the perpetrators of that heinous crime in our district to book. That is the only way I believe that we can get real result in this fight, because this issue has brought everything into the national conversation. This is a conversation that we need to have. It's very interesting because the actors are so many. So we need to all of us come together with one resolve that this is something we need to fight and stop it.
I'm sure with your involvement, the way you fought this battle, you've got to know some of the actors. Who are some of these actors that we're not able to talk about? You should know them.
It's a matter that has to be put before court. It requires a lot of investigation. I have given my statement to the police, the people now. So the excavator has been found. Excavators, like any other equipment, have owners. So that should give us the first lead. We have provided some other information of pictures of people who were found at the site, of landowners, of a house where we saw some of the items that were seen at the illegal mining. I believe we have given, but I would not want to compromise the police investigation by putting it on air, because as it is, the matter is still under investigation. Even me, I believe I'm still under investigation. The fact that they found the excavators doesn't necessarily mean that I've been, probably the investigation will have to continue so that corporate, but it's absolutely important, it's absolutely necessary that we get to the bottom of this matter so that we can all have our peace of mind as a people.
Well, you heard the District Chief Executive of Elembele, Kwesi Bonzo, who says he is not perturbed by what is happening to him in his fight against illegal small-scale mining. He is saying that this is actually in line with what Mr. President touted, that he would put his presidency on the line and that he is only assisting in the fight, that he has a record to protect. Well, we move on from there and get into other matters related to our national life as we host Richard Ahiagba. It's a one-on-one interaction with him. He's the new communications director of the governing New Patriotic Party. We'll be picking his thoughts on that very matter, Galamsey, and other matters of national scope, including the economy and what government is doing to alleviate the plight of ordinary Ghanaians. Mr. Ayagba, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, my brother.
I'd like to start by congratulating you, first of all, on your elevation to this high office. What does it mean to you, being communications director of the NPP?
Well, thank you. It means everything. The last time I had an interview, I was talking about having a long list of people to appreciate for the journey thus far. I think I'll do that as we go along. But to be very blunt, is a big responsibility that is humbling, and my commitment to it is to do all I can, to work with all together to ensure that what our mandate is or what our responsibility is to tell Ghanaians what is it this party stands for, what we intend to do and how we intend to do it, and how and as and when what deliveries we are bringing to Ghanaians are happening. We'll do what we can to make sure Ghanaians know about it. Where there are challenges, we'll communicate those very simply and plainly to Ghanaians and elicit their support to ensure that the government delivers as we've promised.
Right. And so having you in the studio, I cannot but want to find out from you, how is the NPP faring internally? And I pose this question because, look, we've had the likes of Dr. Richard Amwakoba, who has contested at one point to be your party's chairperson. We have the likes of Kwabene Japon, who himself has been a party chairman before. We have the likes of Kwejum Pieni, who has dabbled in finance circles in your party and beyond. And all of these people, you know, your former party secretary, I beg your pardon, Kwabene Japon.
Yeah.
Yes. All of these people have, in recent times, had cause to criticize the NPP. I think the most recent one I recall is Dr. Richard Amwakumba, saying that, for example, the IMF boss's comments that, you know, Ghana's economy is actually not so much on the back of bad policies, but what is happening globally. She was actually interacting with me, so I know exactly what she said. And he says that is not the reality. I mean, how is the NPP feeling on the back of all these people, stalwarts, big wigs in your party, coming against the party?
Well, interestingly, that's how we grow. And any organization like ours needs the dynamics of internal competition, internal conversation such as this, which is straight. And the party is a democratic party, so we're used to having conversations like this honestly and bluntly. This is how we grow, and I think that is going to make the NPP better.
I realize what you're saying is basically iron sharpens iron, and so the friction will make us grow. But I also know for a fact that you would prefer not to be criticized this harshly by your own. I mean, what is the party doing on the back of these comments that have been put forth? Because it can't just be, oh, when they criticize us, we'll grow. How is that making the party grow? What action is the party taking?
Well, inherently, when the reason you grow is because those commentary are taken on board, right? It become part of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis to ensure that there is reform. There's the administration of the party takes all of those things in their strides and work towards achieving that kind of working relationship that makes the party reform as it goes and grow. So it's not as if the criticism is just taking on face value and just jettison, but it's taken and rolled into the management of the party. And that's what I mean by growing.
Let's look at another angle. So your party has a new crop of executives. JFK, for example, is your new scribe, among others. Some say he started hot, hitting the ground running, and all of a sudden we don't hear much of him. Well, looking at the new crop of executives that the party has, what would you say have been the gains so far? It's still early days yet, right, but how are you shoring up as far as the party's fortunes towards election 2024 are concerned?
Well, generally, the administration of the party is not really a very loud activity, and but what you can see, I think the early stages, what you referred to is media interactions. You needed to do that to announce your vision and to bring the party together after the competitions and to assure everyone that now is a time to work together. I think he's achieved that rather successfully. And what he's doing now is actually get to the basic task of organizing the party, administering the party, what are the vision that needs to be advanced. You know, there were about 10 of them or so who competed. And so each of them advertised a vision to the delegates for which reason they were voted. And so what I understand is that in their retreat, they kind of synchronized what their vision were to try and drive in one direction. That kind of work involves a lot of meetings, a lot of engagements, and that's what he's doing. In fact, on this Sunday, I was with him and the General Secretary and the National Chairman to attend the funeral of Mr. Japon, his father. There are other activities that they are doing right now in the party office. There's some kind of rebuild going on, a lot of renovation work. The rest of the work that he has to do up until when he has occasion to come talk to media is to really do the quiet work of administration and reorganization.
You spoke about vision. What is the MPP's vision ahead of election 2024? What is the MPP's vision for our country ahead of the next elections?
Well, we've promised to develop this country in freedom, and I think that remains our torch, and that remains where we...
That's your party's motto.
That's exactly. That's what guides us. That's what informs our policy. And using that to advance our worldview, which is to promote this country from a very liberal conservative standpoint, ensuring that the market is enabled to work, private sector is energized, and the values, our cultural values are protected. That is our vision, and that's what we seek to translate into policy to make sure this country develops.
If I asked you, is the MPP in a good place ahead of election 2024, what would you say?
Well, that would be asking to prophesy, but I think that as a government...
Maybe you have a crystal ball.
Well, if you ask me from an instinctual standpoint, I'll tell you that the party is positioned to win the 2020 election. The reason being very clear.
Did you mean 2024?
2024. The reason is quite simple, that we're going to encourage a conversation in our country that is focused or centers around ideas, and to say that how is it that we can come to develop this country? And we all know the input of the MPP. It's a practical approach that we bring to the development of this country. And the expectation would be that our opposing party would come to the table with ideas. And on that platform, I think that any day, MPP has a superior proposition for Ghana.
So you still feel that on the back of everything that is happening, the MPP is still in pole position to win election 2024? And when I say everything that is happening, I'll be getting into some of them, but paramount among them are economic woes. I'll get into the breakdown.
Right. I'd rather, when you get into
basically all the things we're seeing, you feel the MPP is still in pole position to win?
I wouldn't see any reason why the MPP cannot win that election. Of course, we are going into an election. It's a battle. You are interested in winning, and you would actually activate all your advantages to win. And I think that the MPP any day would make a good case for itself to win.
Your own party people have said this is going to be a Herculean task on the back of all the developments we've seen, especially the economic ones, especially to do with corruption as well, and the fight against it, and how perception, and you've seen the Afrobarometer reports, that report commissioned by SHRAJ, the Ghana Statistical Service, and the UN ODC, all of them pointing to the fact that we have a severe malaise when it comes to corruption and fighting it. And you still think, and mind you, I only bring these two up because these were two of the crucial issues in 2016 for which power swung to the NPP. And now the people feel you're not doing well on the economy, you're not faring well when it comes to the fight against corruption. You still feel the NPP is in a good place.
You know, any election is Herculean. You cannot underestimate elections, because what it involves people's emotions. How they feel today will be different how they feel tomorrow. And a number of things could change people's minds. But what we believe is that the MPP, given our history from where we come, has always been able to make the case for itself. Now, the idea of the economy being central in 2016 was clear. And the reason it was that the MPP proposed a superior argument to what the NDC was proposing at the time. And that argument is still valid today. And we're looking for the rest of the country for us to engage in a conversation that centers on ideas of how is it we develop this country. So it's not going to be only about what you see now. It's about whether or not the validity of the ideas the MPP has put on the table is relevant to the problems that we face. And so the measurement is not only on the outcome, it's also on the effectiveness of the policy propositions that the parties are making. So because if you just look at the outcome and not look at the relevance of the solutions that is being put, you shortchange yourself by voting for the temporal outcome that you're looking for, but that is not sustainable long term. Ghana, where we are, given the structure of our economy, you know that what we need is structural change. And the ideas that the NPP has put on the table any day stand the test of time to be able to get us out of where we are. And what we need is not quick fix. We need a long-term sustained economic policy that in the long run will change the structure of this economy. And so that's the conversation we're going to have going into 2024. And we're going to be deliberate in making it not to be distracted by the propaganda of the opposition, but we're going to sustain a conversation that says that if you are faced with a problem, what would you do? You want a strategy to overcome that. And that strategy, let's put it side by side, what the opposition is bringing, and see which one trusted would give us the outcome we're looking for as a country. Because now we need to build Ghana looking the long term, not in the short term.
You've spoken about two things I want to pick your thoughts on. One, propaganda, two, alternatives. It appears anytime there's any comment that is dissenting, that deviates from what establishment, the MPP, the ruling administration, prefers, it is propaganda. But when it goes the way of the thinking of the administration, it is apt. How is that so? Because it's not only, and I've heard this from civil society, I've heard this from on different subjects. It appears whenever there's a dissenting view, it is propaganda, and it's from the opposition. A typical example, the debate on the E-levy. I said that, and we're free to express our opinions. I said that my thinking is not for the E-levy on the back of all the dynamics that we're facing economically. And even on the back of what now Vice President Dr. Bawumia said then, before you assumed the reins of power, that no, electronic taxations, no to that, never. But here we are today. So what is propaganda? And is everything that is dissenting propaganda?
Well, I mean, to begin with, the view that everything said contrary to government position is deemed or is cast as propaganda is not scientific. It's just your imagination. You're saying that.
It is not imagination as much as you're thinking that it is not, or it
but
is.
I just told you it's not scientific.
It's also not
it's
scientific.
Not scientific because
the point
what is it is that I'm not sure how many people you have asked to come to that conclusion. And how many people gave you that, and who are those?
I cited for you the E-levy.
Well, I agree. We'll have that conversation, but I'm just saying that the position that you generalize that to become an advertised position of all is not scientific, and we shouldn't encourage that. What I am trying to say with the E-levy, I have not heard anybody say it is propaganda that the NDC opposes it. But I'm just saying that when the NDC opposed that, I don't see the basis. And I can engage in that conversation with you to say what you thought was wrong with the E-levy. And not only looking at the E-levy, because I've followed the conversations here and I know your position. I'm not particularly against the fact that you're against it, right? But what I am concerned about is to see what was your alternative, given the circumstances that we're in, right? And what is the thinking behind the E-levy that is so wrong, given the circumstances?
I think I would cite for you the same concerns the Vice President now cited back then.
Hold on.
I think if we want to go down that road, we could
No, we can go. Because you see, the point about it is it's not to resist going there. It's to go there and then make a justified case for why we needed to do that. Because right now today, right, we heard from the outset, before E-levy, the conversation around was that, oh, go to the IMF. That was the NDC proposition, period. That was all they got.
It was an alternative then.
But
it's an alternative that over time you've eventually had to take.
Hold on. But that was the only alternative they had. So that was their only solution.
That is not true.
But that's what they said. What else did the NDC say? What else did they say?
They spoke about fiscal discipline.
Fiscal discipline is not a solution.
Some of the things. They spoke about cutting down on ministers.
But that is not a solution.
That has not been done.
That is not a solution.
It is part of the solution.
No, it's not. Cutting down.
How is it not?
No, hold on. Cutting down is not a solution necessarily. Because hold on. The idea is that if you don't have the money, you are forced to cut down anyway. So it's not a solution that is coming from anywhere that is new.
But we still have our same set of ministers.
No, please. Let's advance this cautiously. If you say to cut down, right? Just right now we're on the show and you say, oh, we need to finish. You have a lot of content you want to discuss. But the fact that you want to finish now, which will help you because you want to finish, means that you are not going to be able to discuss the full length of what you've called me here for. So if by some dictate we have to end the show, we have to end the show. But it means that we haven't finished the content we have to discuss.
Is that an analogy for the ministers?
To say, no, for the NDC proposition that you have to cut down cost. The idea for that is that it's not a germane proposition. It's an inevitable proposition. If you don't have the money, you will cut down by default. But we're asking for something in the midst of the challenge that adds on, that brings solution. Because that's what governments or parties are supposed to do. Find solutions to the problem. And you look at a set of variables you have and you say that, look, as a country, we have a responsibility to develop this country. As Ghanaians, we have to do it. And so how do we get the money to do it? And one person's proposition is that, oh, go to the IMF. That cannot be a sovereign people's choice by default. We must be able to deal with our problem, look within and find the solutions that can deal with our problem.
What does it mean now that
the problem I have with the singular proposition to say that IMF is the way out for me is burdening. And that's why I disagree with anybody who says that I don't want the E-levy. Yes, you can talk about the rate. Yes, you can talk about the pain it's going to impose, but I tell you no lie that whoever develops this country will not be anybody other than yourself and myself. We have to look ourselves fairly in the face and say, look, we have a responsibility to develop our country. We'll take a little bit of pain to develop it for ourselves and for our posterity. Otherwise, why would anybody put their lives on the line to gain us independence? They could have taken the easy way out and say, look, you know what, let's not confront these people. Let's not engage in any conversation we can't end. But they saw the future they wanted to give their children, and they fought for it. So we have it. And we too cannot take the back seat. We too cannot seek the easy way out and say that because E-levy is burdening, because E-levy will put some pain on us, we are going to jettison it and go to the IMF. Okay. Who will make that decision our forefathers made for us to get us the independence? For me, that is the standpoint I come from when I say that I disagree with those who say E-levy was not a way out.
All right. So I'll give you one simple reason for which a number of people, and I don't want us to get into the E-levy too much because that's not the conversation we're having here. The E-levy itself, in terms of performance, is raking in about 7%, just about less than 10% of what was expected, if you followed the figures. I believe that in itself is, what would you call it, a referendum of what the people think about the E-levy en masse. But then you talk about the fact that, yes, we must build on taxation. We also recall before this administration came to power, there was a lot of talk about moving away from taxation to production. Yeah. You do recall, right?
I do, absolutely.
Great. And specifically, like I mentioned, the vice president himself spoke about electronic taxation and said this was not the way to go. So just on the point you make about we must develop via taxes, all of us have lived in different parts of the world and we know that, yes, they thrive on taxes. But the people will tell you, of all the taxes I pay, what am I getting from government? Governments are brought into power, political parties are put in power so that they give certain deliverables. That's why we had the Obameter for Barack Obama. And if the deliverables are not there, the question is whether people still want to keep throwing money into this cauldron, which is supposed to be used for the national cake, and yet not see the deliverables. That is the question. I'll give you one example. Our fuel component. Between the 19th of January, when diesel, for example, which is commonly used in agricultural, agriculture, I mean for agricultural machinery, you are looking at most of the buses in our system, the trotros and the rest operate on that. Generators, companies and all of that operate on diesel. It has moved from 6 cedis, 99 pesos, I believe, from the 19th of January to 14 cedis, 50 pesos as of the 2nd of September. Similar pricing for petrol as well, which has moved all the way to about 12, 13 cedis. The last time I had to fill my own tank, someone who was spending over just about 240 cedis just about a year ago, I needed over 600 cedis to fill my tank. So those are the real issues that people look at and tell you with a tax component of about what? 4+ cedis, almost 5 cedis in terms of fuel. We're being taxed in so many ways. We are being buffeted in so many ways. Those are some of the angles we have to look at when it comes to the E-levy. It's not just, oh, we don't want the levy. These are some of the arguments that people have forcefully made. I don't know whether that resonates with you. But speaking...
There's no disagreement about the matter. And ordinarily, the NPP, by our policy position, we prefer not to tax. So the idea that we're moving from taxation to production is a natural position for the NPP. That's our policy stance. That's our worldview, right? Because we are pro-market, and when you're taxing, the market productivity goes down because people are discouraged, and you want a situation where the market is elevated, energized, and given incentives to produce. So that's our natural position, and that's where we want to get to. But before you get there, you are constrained in an economy that is not as formal as it ought to be. That everybody as citizens who needs to be able to pay tax are not being captured. Of course, the petroleum component that everybody gets to pay because of cost of transportation and all that. But there are still aspects of taxation as far as citizen responsibility is concerned that we need to rope people in. Now, besides that, you are in a situation where you need the financial support to be able to continue delivering. And I wanted to ask you a question earlier when you said, well, people cannot see the deliverables when they are paying. I'm not sure what exactly you mean that government hasn't done anything. Is that a debate?
I don't think I said people could see
no, because you mentioned specifically. No, hold on.
When
you said specifically
see all the deliverables.
Well, I mean, what is
there are so many deliverables.
And so let's just focus on
when you've brought to bear quite a number of initiatives.
The conversation
people want to see certain things.
The conversation around is that there is no deliverables. And that cannot be true.
I don't think that can even be a point to be made.
But that's what you said that maybe you were not conscious of it. But the point I'm trying to say is that
even if I intimated that, the point is no administration can come to power for 4 years and do nothing. That's
okay. So government is doing something, and it needs more money to do what it's doing and to be able to do more. So the idea is that government needs revenue.
Right.
We ultimately want to move us away from sole dependence on taxation. And we have come with the proposition of one district, one factory. I've not seen anybody in this country who will tell me that's a bad idea. But it takes time to consolidate that. It takes time to get it to a place where actually is delivering the ultimate goods of helping reduce our dependence on foreign import. So the policy is relevant. What is missing right now is the time component to be able to achieve critical mass of this intervention.
How much time will your party need? How much time will the MPP need?
Well, I don't know. In terms of being able to achieve those promises, I think you need time as well as the commitment of the country to drive to that level. And I don't foresee that I can't tell you in actual terms how many years, but what is real is that these investments take time. But what is true...
I'm only asking you how long it will take because elections are just about 2 years away. No, I'm being realistic.
Okay.
Elections are just about 2 years away. If people will vote for your party to break the 8, it will also depend on some of what they will see ahead of the elections. That's why I'm asking you.
No, yes. I think that...
What are the timelines?
No,
when do you think...
I think that... You see, I don't want us to get into the space of saying that, okay, by next year we have to do A, B, C, D, because that's not a realistic, conversation. If you are real, if you want to be true to get it, because in our own lives, there's a lot of things we want to do, and I'm sure you want to do a lot of things, but you understand that there's time, and you aim and work consistently towards that. Government is not any different from our everyday life. It's at macro level doing that for all of us. But the idea is that I want to see a government who is implementing a certain policy. And I want to sit here and look at that policy and say, in the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years, that policy will crystallize in the way that transforms or changes the conditions we are feeling today. Right. That, for me, is where we must have this conversation going forward. What ideas are the MPP bringing that the NDC is bringing that gives us hope that tomorrow, or if not in our time, our children will have a better Ghana? That, for me, is the relevant of the conversation. I haven't seen that on the NDC side.
So, in other words, what you're saying is that the NDC is hopeless, hapless. They have no clue what to do to salvage our economy. If they were in office, they wouldn't know what to do.
The NDC speaks like that. We don't speak like that. You hear them, they say clueless and all of these things they say, but I don't hear them say anything substantial in terms of ideas. I want to suggest to you that they stop speaking in those terms and actually speak in concrete terms about what ideas they have. We have shown you what we can do. Our position is clear. I don't know the policy position of the NDC. They talk about social democracy. I don't know what that translates to in terms of policy in today's world. Any social policy idea of we are going to collect money from here and all of that, I don't see how you are going to survive. But you have to be able to generate revenue internally. And I have not seen one singular policy from the NDC that can give us the hope that implemented properly, this policy will get us here. I haven't seen it. So that's a conversation we must have. They must show us. Everything is not going the way we intended to go because we live in an ecosystem where the interactions between ourselves and our neighbors produce a certain outcome that you cannot control entirely. But the hope is that we are doing the right thing, and that right thing sustainably done, implemented and supervised properly, we will get the outcome we need, because that is the template that those who have developed have implemented.
Quick intervention to wrap on the economic front. So we're looking at the slump in our economy. I mean, between January and now, we know about inflationary figures. We're looking at inflationary figures that are only reminiscent of what? December 2003, right after which we went HIPIC. We're looking at inflation as of the month of July standing at 31.7%, which is far away from, the projections we made of just about 10% and under. We're looking at the free fall of our CD. And I say that because even after the 750 million that came through from the Afrexim Bank facility, we saw a 0.2%, 0.20 peswa gain. And all of a sudden, there was a slump again against the major currencies, the dollar, the euro, the pound. We're looking at all of these dynamics and the fact that the monetary policy rate keeps going up. What is the NPP going to do practically? How do we get out of this? The IMF says they are hoping, the IMF boss, Kristalina, when she spoke to me, said they were hoping by end of year, 2022, we would get a facility, but we've not got it yet. What's the plan?
Well, I think you asked the question, how is the NPP or government going to get out of this?
Get us all out of it.
Yes. So the question more is, how is the world going to get out of this? Because it's not an NPP problem, it's not an Ghana problem.
Mr. Hyeba, respectfully, you know that...
If you let me finish,
just a quick point. You realize that in Ghana, yes, we may be concerned about what is going on in the world, but we are more concerned about what is happening in our own country.
But you and I...
Rather than...
You and I have a responsibility to tell the full story, right? If you are running, and you say you're only concerned about running, and then you're not concerned about what is chasing you. If the thing chasing you stops, you keep running, you stop when the thing stops, right? So the situation we're in is global, right? Now, is it that you talked about inflation, you talk about, I think the other associated conversation is the depreciation of the city. That is a global issue, right? Now, we can talk about ours, but you won't make full sense if you only focus on our country alone, because the interconnection is completely inextricable. The monetary policy options that we have to control inflation has been exhausted, right? Inflation is a global thing. America is suffering it. UK is suffering it.
At different percentages,
different percentages. But the point I want to make to you is that how will UK solve its inflation problem? The same tools we have. Right? They'll be tightening monetary policy. Interest rate will go up to dry up money in the system, right? America will do the same. What does that mean for us? The cost of money or the cost of doing business will change because America is trying to solve its problem. Britain is trying to solve its problem. So when their interest rate go up and people are flooding money to get to America or to Britain to be able to get high returns, it creates a shortage or demand situation that will drive your inflation. So these are practical problems. You and I have responsibility to educate. That's really what we have to do, to say that what is happening, it is not. If your father doesn't have money to give you to go to school and you are home, and it is not because your father intentionally is refusing to give you money, but practically speaking, there is a global situation that prevents him from getting out from his house to go to the bank and get you money. You cannot fault your father that he didn't give you money to go to school. But to begin with, you can't go to school. So these are practical problems that we as journalists, as communicators, must bring to Ghanaians and reason around it. And in fact, this challenge that we're facing, rather than dumping our spirit, I have a sense that it should motivate us to say to ourselves that this is why we must build an economy relying on ourselves, relying within, so that we are not so dependent on import, so much that anything Americans do with their dollar to be able to control inflation in their country affect us when we are not supposed to be affected. The global situation is real. And we must have that conversation. It's not about obfuscating the issue. It's not about trying to explain it away from what government has to do, but it is a practical reality that we cannot avoid. Anytime we do that, we actually expose ourselves as not being abreast with the issues. And I think that we need to focus on that and give full context to the issue, and then we can see what set of solutions exist that we can apply.
Over the decades, would you, if I mentioned economies like Togo, Benin, the Ivory Coast, would you have said Ghana's economy was better before COVID-19 and the Russo-Ukrainian war struck?
Well, the parallels we are seeing today is because what affects Ghana affects all of us equally. So the global
ahead of all of these dynamics, would you have said our economy was better than theirs based on the figures we were putting out, the GDP, other metrics, economically speaking? Would you have said our economy was better?
You know, your question is situational because we have a situation that affects all countries equally, which is the reason the parallels or the references are coming. But any other time, I don't think that there will be a common base to do that.
Okay. So if you looked at just real economic growth over time, you looked at the other metrics in terms of the stability of our currency and others, yes, I would have said we were faring better. But today, when you look at the very inflation that you speak of, all of these countries are nowhere near our inflationary rate. So that goes back to the point I was making that, yes, it's a global phenomenon. No country on the planet has been spared. Yet there are different percentages when it comes to the slump of currency, where we've had the ignominious position of being ranked by Bloomberg's second worst currency in the world at a point, and currently, and inflationary rates that are, outrageously high, at least in the Fourth Republic, in terms of what we have experienced, because we wouldn't want to use the example of the Sudans or the Nigers or other such countries. We are not in that territory, or Zimbabwe. No one wants to get there. So that is the point to be made, that when you compare even to our neighbors that we are deemed to be miles ahead of, it doesn't look so good.
Well, you see, so I have a problem, really, because the burden of education is key, and that's really is your calling, right? So you are not giving full information to people that you are having this conversation because there's a global context to the problem. If COVID,
how else can we have that conversation when I've mentioned that all of these other countries are facing the same problems we are facing?
But here, I was looking at the inflation in Ivory Coast. When NDC were in power, I think somewhere 2016, the Ivory Coast inflation was about 0.72%. Okay? It came down all the way, I think by 2019 was 0.81. In 2020, it jumped up to 2.2%. It went up to 4%. Right now, it's standing at 5.4%. You can look at it, right? That tells you a rise. The inflation situation in UK, for example, in America and the rest of the world, is ticking up because of the situation we're in. I'm just telling you that you cannot have this conversation in a vacuum. It is politically expedient to do that. The NDC can do that, but you and I, let's not do that. Let's understand the context.
What is that meant to suggest when I am giving you facts and figures? And
What is the fact?
Well,
no, I'm not. You are not giving me any fact that I would dispute, but you are giving me those facts out of context. Yes, and that cannot be factual anymore if you take it out of context, because where you speak Twi, right? It's like that's the thing. So when you take it out of context, then you're only telling us that kukuru is happening.
So the context is COVID-19 and the Russo-Ukrainian war.
You are the one who interviewed the IMF boss, isn't it? She was clear in everyday language to tell you what has happened is real. We can deny it for political purposes. When the NDC come here, let them say that it is not COVID, and they will be exposed for it. What I am saying is that, look, I have videos to show you. The former president in 2013-14, that he was going about telling us, especially in 2014, telling us that, oh, the situation in the world is giving us problems and all of that. He interpreted all his challenges in terms of that, in terms of global situation. But when he was in power, there was no COVID. If there was COVID, he would have given us the elementary excuse of let's go and just auction Ghana because there's nothing he can do about it. Because the idea is that, to be more serious, the idea is that the NDC continuing to speak like this, I think that is dangerous in the sense that it is telling Ghanaians that there is a way to solve this problem, that government is not investing to solve it, when in fact they do not have even a solution. They do not even appreciate the government of the issue that government face as far as trying to deal with a complex economic issue that is affecting everyone. I want us to have the conversation in those terms. Then, if you look at a global context and you are looking at Ghana and government is not taking a certain decision to solve the problem, then we can deal with that. But to move away from that context and begin to say is that it's only kukri is happening, kukri is not happening, I think that is shortchanging and being unreasonable with the facts.
I honestly do not see which other context there could be, especially as I've mentioned, the same twin problems that the finance minister very aptly spoke about even in delivering his budget statement. I've heard the vice president talk about the twin problems of COVID-19, the Russo-Ukrainian war. Then he talks about IPP payments, and then he talks about the banking sector cleanup, for example. And all of these, I do not know what other exigencies there could be. But let's move away from there. There are other matters to tackle. Let's talk Galamsey. Another real matter. And right before you walked in, we were hearing from Kwesi Bonzo, the Alembele DC, interacting with my
I've heard people render his name in different terms. Is Bonzo or Bonzi?
Well, I don't know. I know the name Bonsi exists, and I know that there are some forms that go Bonzi. But what I have is Bonzo, and so unless you want to, you have another.
Well, I'll go with your rendition.
Okay, all right. So we've heard him speak to the issues, but we also recall Mr. President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo talking about the fact that he would put his very presidency on the line in the fight against Galamsey. Then there was the bit about community mining, which some have said is just another form of illegal mining being allowed. But when you look at that promise versus what we are seeing, I don't know whether you've seen the Ankobra, the Pra, and other rivers, major rivers in our country. We've heard from the Ghana Water Company Limited saying that the way things are going with the turbidity levels and all of that, we could be importing water in about a decade or so. Are we winning the fight against Galamsey? And if not, especially with the context of Aisha Huang being back in the system, how do we win it?
Well, thank you. I think I like your framing of the question. Are we winning? And that for me is more progressive, right? We have to win it, and we must win it. And when the president says that he's putting his presidency on the line to win the fight against Galamsey, what he meant is that I will do all it takes. That's in plain terms what he's saying. That he's not going to shy away from the difficulty of that fight. He's not going to shy away from what decisions he must make, and he will make all decisions necessary, reasonable under the law, to try and solve the problem. And he did. And if you saw the outcome of the 2020 elections, the near punitive nature of the steps and measures needed to pull us back from where we have gotten to actually had an effect on our electoral fortunes in 2020. And that the party, that actually is a reflection of what the president was saying, that he would put his presidency on the line. Tells you that he took some decisions that were not very popular, but was necessary to try and solve the problem. It's a collective wealth that we must preserve and hand over to our children. So every measure that we must invest in making sure we achieve that is useful. But what I think is challenging is the extent of participation, cooperation of we the citizens to realize this, that there is a bit of a deficit. I tell you this painfully, during the 2020 election conversation, you saw the NDC, I won't mention his name, but I could, my good brother in the NDC led some conversation. At the particular video I saw, went to a mining site, were telling the people if the NDC came, they were going to allow everybody to mine.
When you say your good brother, are you referring to the opposite number in the NDC?
Oh, no, I'm not saying.
Well, I mean, we must know where these comments are coming from.
No, but you are aware of the conversation.
I don't. Okay. I don't. Well, I've heard so many things, so you could pinpoint whom you're speaking.
No, this one I'm sure you had. Specifically, okay, going about saying that if the NDC were to win, they will come and liberalize and let everybody mine all they want. That was completely irresponsible.
But that hasn't even been the position of the NDC in the past. That is not what they have done. They have also sought to fight Galamsey, just as you have sought to fight. Well, so then, why would they do this?
Up until now, okay, we are not appearing to fight Galamsey. They were appearing to fight Galamsey. And you remember the Honorable Inisa Fuseni, I think, was at Lance at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, was towards the 2016, ending 2016 thereabout, was literally just gave up on the fight. Literally gave up on the fight. Rationalizing why government was not able to advance the fight and win the fight against Galamsey. They started the failure to win the fight against Galamsey started under the NDC. Because when it started small, if they were able to contain it, were able to be decisive the way President Akufo-Addo and his government have been decisive. We would have curbed this, right, and wouldn't have gotten to the proportion we have to deal with.
In spite of all this decisiveness, what would you say we have gained? Because if you speak to the scientists, people who conduct the research and all of that, they say our situation is worse. It has become actually worse than it was maybe some 4 years ago, 5 years ago, even going further. So you would expect that if we're doing more, we would chalk more feats, right?
Yeah.
How come we are not doing so? To the extent that, and you see her right here, there's a lot more rhetoric. We'll prosecute Aisha Wang, where someone in 2017 is sent out of our country, some would say without due process. We heard Senior Minister Yao Safumafu come and say, oh, it wouldn't do us any good to incarcerate her, and it's fine, and the Sino-Hydro deal. But she's back with impunity. And here we are again, and Mr. President says, Attorney General, ensure that they receive the stiffest penalties, but we had the opportunity to do that. So have we come or have we gone?
Well, you see, so you are talking about Aisha Wang?
I'm talking about Galamsey brother.
Yeah, but Galamsey,
she fits into the picture.
Yes.
She's
okay,
in the picture.
Well, she's in the picture. But you see, let's not have this conversation. I just told you how is it that the NDC cannot stand any day to actually suggest that somebody is failing the fight because they actually gave up on trying. They gave up on trying. So when somebody is trying on something you have given up on, you cannot stand in judgment.
What shows they gave up?
They gave up. The minister actually literally gave up, right? But the point I want to make to you is this, that the fight against corruption, let's not look at it in terms of the president. What the president is doing, the government is doing, is provide leadership, right? There are a lot of crime situations in our country that need to be fought. Okay, but the one person cannot fight the crime. The reason other jurisdictions are successful is that each one hold each other accountable. We as citizens need to hold ourselves accountable. In fact, if there were Chinese people, okay, which is what I'm referring to Aisha Wang and any other foreigner who is in our forest mining today, I'm not sure how they will make their way there if there's no collaboration.
But you do accept
so the question is
the possibility of even having them come in here and have collaborators, we should stem the tide of that. They shouldn't even be able to enter our borders, whether by land or sea. The opportunities for that shouldn't even be available. I get where you're going. Yeah. Yes, maybe some chiefs here and there.
But that's real.
Some people in communities. We all agree to that. You cannot, excavators cannot fly from one location and go into forest areas. They'll pass somewhere. Someone sees something.
So let me make a point to you. If you agree with something, then you must account for it. How that agreement has implication on the outcome you are seeking. So if you agree with it, then you must agree it's a difficulty that must be dealt with. And the question is, how do you deal with people willingly enabling something that their government is trying to fight?
By implementing the law, by making it unattractive for them to want to do.
Yes, but I've heard several times where people are saying that, even the police, even the law enforcement are culpable, right?
On the matter of culpability, very quickly, just address this for me. Your party members, your own party members, big wigs in the MPP, some of them have been implicated, so to speak. And are you aware of that in the first place, before I even go to mentioning any names?
Like you're saying.
Because my own colleague, Erastus Asaredonko, made mention of how, your Ashanti Regional Chairman, for example, is complicit in illegal mining and all of that. And it's not that, other names have been mentioned time and again. At a point, your women's organizers, excavators had to be seized and all of that, and there was hue and cry. What are you doing with it from within your party?
No, you see, I have a position that is quite simple to say that we must enforce the law. The challenge we have is that the enforcement of the law has been a problem. But that is not a function of this government. Right? It's a general situation that happens. Now, the DC was telling you that if you go ahead and arrest somebody, who is galamseying, the number of people who will call you, it is almost a cultural thing. It's almost a way of life in Ghana where you try to enforce the law, where you try to do the right thing. Somebody calls you, somebody who knows somebody calls you. It's a social situation that must be dealt with. So when we know that exists, let's not discount it and say government must do something. We must account for the environment and say that we must make these decisions. Look, the conversation about immigration is a global conversation. Where we are now, there are Ghanaians, there are Africans seeking to exit into other countries. And when you go there, the conversation they have in their country, like you and I are having, is that, why are these people coming here? And in that conversation, they're interfacing with people who are saying that they have a right to be here. And when they are here, they need to be given or accorded all the legal rights. So immigration is a global problem. It's not as if that Aisha Wang is here, so it is our country we should sack. Well, we have our own nationals in other places.
I guess the problem is that we have quite a number of other nationals, especially Chinese.
You have no idea.
Finding this country so attractive.
You have no idea. You have no idea.
About what exactly?
About Ghanaians who are elsewhere, Nigerians who are elsewhere, Africans who are elsewhere.
Doing what?
So let's
doing what? Galamsey?
I'm not sure what they are doing altogether. Okay. But the point
I just wanted to know what the premise was.
The premise I'm trying to establish for you is that there are Ghanaians in other places, in other countries, who have emigrated there legally or not legally. They are there. They're trying to make a living.
Okay, so
what she's trying to do is to make a living. It's legitimate that she's here to make a living, but we need to regulate what she's doing. And that must be done. Aisha Wan didn't come to Ghana in 2017. She was here long before that.
I did not say she was.
No,
it's in 2017.
I'm not saying that's what you said. I'm not saying that's what. I'm just establishing for you what the situation is. So she's been in this country. She's committed no crime by being here, right? That must be clear. Now, but if she's here doing anything out of turn with the law, that must be addressed. That we can talk about. But the idea that she is here and therefore somebody is guilty, I don't think that conversation is progressive. The issue about Ashanti Regional Chairman, and I've been shying away from directing and mentioning names because there hasn't been any evidence established that they have done anything out of turn.
There was a specific mine, there was a specific area, and I just forget, but I make mention of the fact that my own colleague, Erastus Asaredonko, who is in the Ashanti region, working with Love Affair, made it categorically clear. He even mentioned the place, the name of the mine. They had actually gone there. So, and that mine, it's established, is owned by the Ashanti Regional.
So I don't have a problem with that. Because really, this is the mindset we must bring to this national conversation. They're saying that, has anybody done wrong? If the person is done wrong, let's apply the law. I have no problems with that. Why is anybody not taking action? Because the individual we're talking about has been mining in this country before MPP came to power. Isn't that the case? He's been mining here long before. So has he been doing the right thing all along? Has he established a track record that he's mining according to the law? And my guess to you is that yes, he has been. Otherwise, under the NDC, he would have been stopped. But if today people have some understanding that he's doing something contrary to the law, I think that our law courts
I guess we would also have to look at the timelines of when this mine was established and all of that.
That's
before
okay.
We can go back and say,
no, it's fine.
Maybe he had been doing same under which administration or that administration.
I don't get the point.
You're saying
why are you trying to say that?
Doing this, if he was doing this, I'm only saying that I do not have the timelines, for example, about when he started this particular operation. You get it. So if you tell me that
I was just
maybe
establishing.
it was legitimate then, I don't have.
No, I'm only establishing for you.
Have that
I'm just establishing for you that if you've been journalists under Mahama and you are journalists under Akufo-Addo, you've been a journalist. You've been practicing journalist. That's just the point I'm making. That you have been journalists all along. So certainly, if we have problems with your journalism, we can go back and look at what you did under Mahama. For which reason we can compare and say, look, now you are doing poor journalism when you were doing excellent journalism. That's why you didn't get into trouble. You do poor journalism today, you're in trouble. You can't say that I've always been a journalist. I'm saying that if he's been mining all along, okay, under NDC, and he's not been affected in any way, then it means that he's established the track record of mining, and he didn't just start under us to say that we came and we enabled him to become a miner. He's been doing this all along, okay? But the truth of the matter, my brother,
and maybe final point. Yes, I just want to run two things by you so we can wrap the conversation.
We must engage in honest effort to try to redeem this country. The MPP is focused on doing that. What I find troubling is the conversations around what government does and government is doing is the problem. We must honestly engage in the conversation, point where there's wrong, and not just wrap everything up in one clean sheets or poor sheets of non-performance or this and that, and say therefore government is not delivering. That for me is shortchanging ourselves, because in the end, where the good spots are, where the successes are, we will not be able to identify it, only for political expediency. And the person for whom this will be beneficial to will not be able to do even a fraction of what is being done. I think that we need to talk about the issues as opposed to the propaganda.
Let's look at two issues that we can wrap with. The Ghana card and the National Cathedral. There are so many issues that the Ghana card situation has spawned. And yesterday I interacted with the PRO, Abdul Abudu Ganiyu, Doc. So let's look at SIM card re-registration and everything around it, and how a lot of people feel they are being unfairly targeted, privacy being violated and all of that. And then using the Ghana card for registration for the Electoral Commission, for those who are going to partake in the continuous registration ahead of election 2024. Let's look at that for a starter. With the situation where over 1 million Ghanaians, whether through not picking their cards or not having completed the registration process because of how protracted it has been, or otherwise do not have the Ghana card and also are unable to re-register their SIMs. Do you feel this is fair to the ordinary Ghanaian? Some people have started a class action in court. Do you feel it is fair?
Well, you know, I encourage people to use our legal system for remedy, because that's what they exist for. The SIM card re-registration is a conversation. I don't know if the NCA, the ministry, NIA, are shortchanging themselves in terms of communicating forcefully on the matter, because you know it's key that we do this so we know who has this the SIM card in his phone, who is registered to. I'll tell you a story. Right recently, right after our appointments, I had a call from one individual called himself. I understand that there's a real person with a name, so I won't announce the name. But he called me and said, "Oh, those of you that have just been appointed, there is this program at Cocoa Board, for example, to give you a slot to get somebody to come and work there. I said, what do you mean by that? So no, this is something we want to do to help you. So I picked the phone and I called somebody at Cocoa Board, and the person didn't answer. But I checked and I saw that there's an individual by the name Dr. Opoku also.
Right.
And I called a friend of mine who wanted, some work, and I said, well, call this guy and see what this is about. Call the person. Then he said, oh, bring this, bring that. And right after talking to the person, told him, well, do you have another person? Okay, and I'm actually taking the time to say this so people who are listening will understand or see that this is going on.
Right.
Right? Give me a name of any other person. If they can bring me 5,000, I'll get them a job there at Cocoa Board as well. This individual, in a split second, mobilized 45,000 cedis from people who are unsuspecting who wants a job. That money went to a SIM card. That is supposed to be identified, but it's not identified. And what I came to understand by speaking to the PRO of Cocoa Board is that this has been carrying on, and they've been trying to deal with it. They've reported the case to police. Why is the guy able to do that? Because he has an anonymous SIM card that is live, that is collecting money, that he is collecting or retrieving, but nobody can track him.
So I think
that is the enormity of the problem we face. So we need to do the SIM card registration so that when you're perpetuating crime with your SIM card, we can see it, because now we have a whole economy online. So it's even more imperative that we do this. So it's important to establish that baseline to say that this is a necessity for the kind of economy we're building. You cannot be trying to get everybody online and have that insecurity online present. So you want to deal with that. So the challenges that come with it, okay, is as a result of the urgency that you act on this.
Okay.
What I think we need, and going forward we must do, is to engage frequently, to give people updates, and this should be part, and naturally part of policy implementation. There is ongoing communication, briefing that must happen to let people know. So the minute we hear something goes wrong, the PROs, communication people come and tell Ghanaians, yes, this is what is happening, we know we're fixing it and we're going to fix it.
Okay.
That little bit of the lag in terms of the communication, that is probably what is creating a
Mr. Hegba, give me.
But let me just conclude for you, but there isn't anything untoward that the ministry, the NCA or the telcos are coordinating to try and get this insecurity that we're in offline, that they are doing bad or untoward to Ghanaians. It is not against Ghanaians, it's for Ghanaians, and we must support them. And we must also demand from them to work together to ensure that they deliver for Ghanaians this safe environment for us to
Give
be able
me 30 seconds on this, no more than 30 seconds, and then we'll wrap the conversation. People have spoken about prioritization, especially in our economic situation. We're looking at, per our estimates, $547 million that will be pumped into the National Cathedral project. And then we're looking at the president now saying it will be built at all costs. Your quick comments in 30 seconds.
That
will be the final thing.
Yeah, so is it your estimate that the cathedral is not entirely useful? If it's not your estimate, then
I merely spoke about the financial component and
the financial component. The funding for that really, per design, is not supposed to come from government.
Yes, we've contributed seed money of $25 million, haven't we?
Right, but that commitment was made from the outset, and so.
No, not from the outset, because it's only in recent times that we've even seen documents. Parliamentarians will even tell you that they were not privy to that. So maybe, but just for...
but you see, so I agree. I mean, but it's always not very accurate when parliamentarians say these things. They have standing to quiz that issue, because our public funds are regulated. How you spend them is regulated. So if they have the appearance of any unsavory disbursement or unacceptable disbursement of public funds, that must be interrogated. So I don't have a problem with that. But what I'm saying is that we must build a cathedral. If the president is saying that what it means is that it's equally a priority. I don't know any one of us here who would prioritize God out of our lives. He's ever present in our lives. And if we're building a cathedral to edify or to actually symbolize God in our lives, I don't think that is entirely wrong. I don't want to err on that side where I'm arguing against building a cathedral for God. I think that is useful. And if we must do it, let's do it.
All right. That's all time will allow us to do. Richard Ihangba is Communications Director with the MPP. Thank you so much, Richard, for joining us for a conversation this morning.
Thank you, my brother. I look forward to seeing you more, to have a contextual conversation about how we develop Ghana.
Maybe next time when we're afforded more time, we'll see how we can broaden the context of the different conversations we shall have. Richard Ihangba, Communications Director, joined us for a conversation. Up next, we're going to be looking at the judiciary, the work it does, and whether it is actually failing in this regard, as per what former President John Dramani Mahama has been saying. We have a team of lawyers on hand to give us what their reflections are after the break.
Who have made it their political agenda to disparage systematically the image of the judiciary for selfish, parochial, partisan reasons. These are the plaintiffs who go to court, indeed to the highest court of the land, provide the skimpiest of evidence to back their claims, and yet insist that their claims be upheld, despite the elementary violation of the ancient common law rules for the discharge of the burden of proof that such a result would entail. It is no wonder that their claims were unanimously dismissed 7-0 by the apex court. The result of this case is in stark contrast to the result of a similar one in 2013, when the unsuccessful plaintiffs managed to persuade 4 out of a 9-member court to find for them. And yet, the earlier plaintiffs chose not to wage a political war against the court. Ghana is governed in accordance with the rule of law and not on the basis of political considerations. It is important that all of us, especially us lawyers, who cherish the democracy we are building, to say no to such persons and guard jealously our democratic way of life, which we have done so much to bring into being. Independent judges, administering the law, protecting the human rights of citizens, and ensuring public accountability are strong pillars of our democracy. Just as an independent electoral commission, noted for its efficiency and the transparency of its dealings, such pillar. Predictably, it is the object of the same anti-democratic attacks as those on the judiciary. Mercifully for all of us, these attacks have not shaken the confidence of the people in these institutions. Genuine Democrats should devote their energies to finding ways and means of strengthening the democratic institutions of our republic, instead of expending profitless time in undermining them.
The judiciary has shown consistently that it is the last line of defense for our country. It was thus with great dismay and embarrassment that I heard a person who has occupied the highest office of state, former President John Mahama, recently launched an unwarranted attack on the integrity of Ghana's judiciary. And I observed that this was really the latest installment of systematic and caustic attacks on our court by the former president, albeit unjustified. And I observed that this was really, and I'm compelled to comment on same in this address, because they border on the security of the state and constitute a deliberate pattern of conduct aimed at undermining the independence of the judiciary, an arm of government whose autonomy is crucial to its proper functioning. Such conduct is clearly deplorable, coming from one who has occupied the highest office of president and aspires again to that office. At this moment, it's important for all to note that I express this sentiment not because I stand in opposition to former President Mahama as a politician. My dismay is founded more on the fact that I'm a lawyer, and every lawyer ought to be concerned about these kinds of views expressed by a political leader in this country. It will be a sore omission if I fail to recognize that there have been other leaders of the political party to which the former president belongs. I do not recall either the late Jerry John Rawlings or the late Professor John Evans Atta Mills mount such a systematic and deliberate campaign of hate against the judiciary. In fact, never once did Professor Mills, Mr. Mohammed's former boss, launch any attack at all on the judiciary.
And so we've heard from the former president, John Dramani Mahama, saying that the confidence in the judiciary is being eroded. Then we hear from Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the current president, who says, well, some people just want to take a swipe at the judiciary when there is nothing on which they can base their comments. And then we hear from the Attorney General as well, who says these are deplorable comments coming from someone expected to know better. But what do our guests think? Bobby Banton is a lawyer. He joins the conversation. We also have Gary Nimako, another lawyer and a member of the MPP communications team. And finally, Joyce Bawa Mokhtari, also a lawyer, an aide to former President John Dramani Mahama. I'll start with Joyce Bawa Mokhtari. Thank you very much, lady, gentlemen, for joining the conversation, by the way.
Very much, and a very good morning to you. And thank you for reaching out.
Great. When you listen to the comments of the president and the attorney general and the picture in which they paint the comments of former President Mahama, do you disagree with them? And why?
I totally disagree with them. And I'm sure that many other well-meaning Ghanaians totally disagreed with them. And if you judge by the memory that actually greeted the over 10-minute rendition of the most disdainful, regrettable, and unfortunate remark by any officer occupying the high office of Attorney General, it speaks volumes and tells you just how low we have indeed sunk. Indeed, I have no reasons or qualms about anybody choosing whatever platform to speak to matters of interest to any one of us. But I think I find the comments of the Honorable Attorney General most unfortunate at this time. I believe his comments were divisive, his comments were disrespectful, his comments were even utterly, totally unnecessary, especially considering the forum. And of course, let's put this matter in proper context. Why? Whether you're a lawyer or a non-lawyer, and I have heard many people from all walks of life, from all schools of thought. Indeed, the master of the law, the greatest of most of these masters of the law, Lord Denham himself, speaks to the fact that judges are not above criticism, speaks to the fact that judges are human beings like all of us, speaks to the fact that judges, like everybody else, do make mistakes, and above all, speaks also to the fact that, like everybody else, judges ought to take criticism in the light in which it is made. You know, it is actually most unfortunate that we reduce all these conversations mostly to these very partisan discussions. And sometimes it is why I would probably decline or should have declined even to engage in this particular conversation. President Mahama, like every other person, has absolutely every right. And I am a believer in the rights of individuals to criticize to whatever extent. And we can do so in a very decorous way, with good language, with respect. And even maybe you can even use one-liners. Why? We all watched how matters in the United States unfolded regarding the case of Roe versus Wade, a case that had hitherto been about reproductive health rights of women mostly. And we watched how key leaders who believed in that particular right granted to women across the United States of America received the news and the criticisms that were leveled against the Supreme Court. Even in some cases, the Supreme Court was described as a Republican Supreme Court. You know, I don't think that we are immune to the tenets of democracy or immune to the tenets of our freedoms of speech. Indeed, listening to the Honorable Godfrey Dami refer also even to some of the rather very dark moments in our history, matters that we all would rather not speak to. So maybe Godfrey Dami is not sure what exactly he's expecting from President Mahama or any other lawyer for that matter. But certainly, many lawyers have been known, and indeed, after the election petition of 2013, we all heard then our candidate Akufo-Addo refer to the ruling of the Supreme Court as perverse. Have we this morning checked what the word perverse actually means and what it connotes and what level of criticism it actually leads to? You know, I think it is not right. It is not fair to reduce a conference of the bar of lawyers to a podium for denigrating anybody. In any case, who goes to the Honorable Godfrey Dami to ask for moral lessons on what to say and what not to say and who to say it to and how to say it? I believe we had many other lawyers and attorneys of the law in that room. And if they will be fair-minded, if they will be just, if they will be sincere with themselves, did they not find those comments totally unnecessary and distasteful? And that did he not go way too far? And look at his choice of words. And he kept going on, I. Even his arrogance, I think, was below par.
You think
he ought to speak very fairly into this matter and ask that the Honorable Attorney General ought to know that he is there to serve the interests not just of himself and his own parochial interests, but the interests of Ghanaians at large.
Right.
And I believe that you may not like somebody's criticism. Indeed, when the Honorable Kandapa spoke to justices of our court, was he not criticizing the court? When the Afrobarometer and CDD reports were actually made public, did they not have reason to call for the justices themselves to look within themselves, to look within some of the perceived allegations of unfairness and bias? Indeed, the word bias is actually one of the biggest and the most used when it comes to attempts by any individual, lawyer or otherwise, to criticize members of the judiciary. You know, I think we ought to start to look at things clearly. Let's be more dispassionate. Let's look also at eschewing this extreme partisanship into which we have sunk and look at things for what they are.
Okay.
Criticisms of outcomes, criticisms of rulings. Indeed, the justices themselves have been known. And I listened to the Chief Justice at some point criticize his own constituents and call on them to rise above the perceptions of bias that have been leveled against the court.
All right.
I don't think those are matters that are not within the public purview or that they are matters that we ought not to be discussing. And as lawyers, we ought to be sincere and honest. All the other attorney generals we've had in the past, did they not also have similar concerns?
All right.
Did they raise them in the manner in which the Honorable Godfrey Dami did?
Right.
Did they speak to the matters in the manner in which he did? I think it's utterly disrespectful. And we ought, in serious terms, to condemn in no uncertain terms what happened yesterday. Absolutely unacceptable, needless, and against the ethics even of our profession.
Right. Thank you for those initial comments. Let me also look at the other side, bring in Gary Nemako, who is a lawyer as well, member of the MPP's communications team. Joyce Bawa Mokhtari talks about the disrespect, the distastefulness with which the Attorney General, per her estimation, spoke. Some have said that this has never happened under any Attorney General within the Fourth Republic. But the points that are made by former President Mahama, that the public perception, positive perception in the judiciary is getting eroded, that in fact there is an existential threat to our democracy. And he also makes mention of the fact that the Chief Justice himself, if we're going to reform our system, so to speak, must be, he must be set aside. And the responses that have come from Mr. President and, the Attorney General, where is this going to end? And is this going to end in any way that inures to the benefit of the judiciary? Because I just see two opposing political parties going at each other on this front. What do you see?
Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning to Senior Joyce, Mr. Bauer. Good morning to Mr. Bunsen. I think it's most unfortunate and very regrettable listening to a senior lawyer, Mr. Bauer, make these commentaries about what transpired yesterday at the bar conference. I have my doubt whether even she said she was there, but clearly We shall monitor in the airways what has transpired over there. What? Hello, can I?
I can hear you loud and clear. I would say that we should go for the issues rather than maybe personality, because it appears you started on the tangent of Joyce Bauer Mokhtari rather than what we're discussing.
Right. Now, the point is that nobody is saying that the judiciary is about criticism. Nobody said the judiciary is infallible. Nobody is saying the judiciary cannot be criticized. Nobody is saying that. It's an intemperate language. It's the declaration of the judiciary by the former president. That is the worry of all Ghanaians.
He says the perception. He says the perception in the judiciary is being eroded.
Hello. I'm monitoring you from on the phone. So 1 minute, I cannot hear what you're saying.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Good. So the bottom line is that if you go to court, for some reason you lose a case. Yes, we know it's bitter, but we all know that once you're not practicing the law, as a lawyer, you go to court with your facts, you go to court with your law, you go to court with your evidence. Now, if you go to court and all the justices, 7 of them, or 9 of them, or 11 of them, unanimously agree that what you brought, you could not bring a circle of evidence before the court. And you go about now, bustering the court. That is a concern that we are all raising. That's a concern that we are all raising. Because, look, in the petition of 2020 that went to Supreme Court, the NDC did not send a single pink sheet to the Supreme Court. And we all know that when you go to court, by way of burden of proof, you ought to have taken your evidence to court. What happened before the Supreme Court petition? Essentially, President Mahama told all Ghanaians that he has won elections. And this faction of loss on any Ghanaian. He's made a point for that he has to win the elections. He had the MPs run to the Electoral Commission saying the election has been won. Okay? The premises were settled at the Supreme Court, and then he said that no one won the elections. No one won the elections. What was before the court and what was said publicly are variants. They are variants. And I don't think it is right to tell Ghanaians that you won the elections and go to the Supreme Court and say, no one won the elections. And that, you are in a court to now seek to more or less seek a scrutiny of the issue. These are facts that you put before Ghanaians. Let Ghanaians scrutinize it. You don't tell Ghanaians that you won the elections or you won the elections and go to the court and say nobody won the elections. And when you lose the case, then you bust out the court. In 2013, President Mahama won the case of the Supreme Court. At that time, was the Supreme Court biased? At that time, was the Supreme Court biased? That's the question we must ask ourselves. Was the court biased when you wanted to take benefit of the court? And you are wearing white. That's why you're happy with it. And when you go to court and you lose a case, you're not happy with it. In 2013, Benjamin Akakpo wanted to pull 4 judges to his side. Because it was 5-4. It was 5-4. It tells you that some evidence was put before the court for 4 to agree with him. So please, let us tell Ghanaians what transpired in court. Let's be honest and sincere with Ghanaians. That when you go to court, you must take your evidence to show the judges, because the court don't manufacture evidence for anybody. If you go to court, you go there with your evidence. You go there with your facts. You go there with your law, and your facts and your law and evidence must go together. That's the bottom line.
All right.
So I think some of the things that is being said and run around, I think it's quite unfortunate. You must be clear and blunt about it. You can't go to court without evidence and expect the judges to speak for you or to rule in your favor.
A quick addition before I go to Bobby Banson. So mention is made of how the current president, when he lost the earlier election petition, the first one in our Fourth Republican history, he described that result as perverse. Now, and it's understandable that when a candidate loses at the Supreme Court, they would feel differently. But then we've had a sequence where now we've got to another election petition that has been ruled against a contending candidate, and all these comments have been made. Perverse, delivery by the Supreme Court, or a perverse ruling, if you like. And now former President Mahama is saying the judiciary as it is now, the apex court, and even the Chief Justice, together, they are eroding public confidence in the judiciary. When you look at the tangent of rhetoric, the sort of comments that have been passed, and then you add what the Attorney General has said in respect of the former president, the rhetoric, is it good for our democracy? Is it good for our justicial system?
You see, the difficulty that we are all running ourselves into is that if we are not careful, we erode public confidence in the judiciary, and I want there's a problem between the citizenry among themselves. They have nowhere to turn to. There's a problem between the executive and more or less the citizens. We have nowhere to turn to. Is that where we are heading towards to? Nobody should delude his mind that MPP as a political party will be in power forever. Nobody. And now that the president is going this path, is he saying that if for some reason one day he assumes the role of governance, he's going to sack the entire judges and bring a new judiciary? Is that what he's going to do? You see, the judiciary has got its own history. The judiciary has survived coup d'etats in this country. It's the only judiciary that survived coup d'etats in this country. The issue of the judges is that people have been called in, they have been murdered in cold blood. So we should be very, very careful.
All right.
And with our commentary on the judiciary. Very careful. And that's my concern. We should not assume that now we want to run them down. And one day, if for some reason you become the head of the executive in this country, are you going to work with the same judiciary? Please. You don't go to court with nothing. You go to court with your facts. You go to court with your evidence. You go to court with your law. And you must go to court knowing that the burden of proof is on the plaintiff. It's on the plaintiff, and you must put your case on a balance of probabilities. You don't go to court, and when you go to court and you have lost the case, and then you now pass it out to the judiciary. That attitude must stop. It must stop. And yesterday, the president spoke about it. My Lord the Chair spoke about it. The president spoke about it. And then the Attorney General spoke about it. We must all come together and now come to one resolution and say that, look, never again should we allow the judges to be bastardized. Never again should we run a shoot down.
All right, Gary.
Nothing else to fall into.
So point made. In one breath, we are told that the justices of the court are not beyond criticism. And in another breath, we are told that we shouldn't bastardize them. So some people would say what the fine line is. I see a comment coming through, and that was not meant for a reaction. That was not meant for a reaction, Gary. I see a comment coming through from.
Critiquing is not bastardization.
Right.
You can critique a judgment, you can critique a court, but you have to bastardize.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Gary. I see a comment coming through which says. But the National Security Minister himself accused the judiciary. But let me come to Bobby Banson. What do you make of all of these developments? Who is erring? Who is not erring? Are both sides in error? And how do we get ourselves out of this maze? Interestingly, in Kenya, they recently had their own election petition, which was thrown out of court. Again, a unanimous decision there against Raila Odinga. But in our context, there seems to be this talk about a unanimous FC time and again. But like some have said, like Gary has pointed out, you need your law and you need to be on top of matters. You need the hardcore evidence. Are we getting something wrong, Lawyer Bobby Banson?
Good morning to you. Good morning to your viewers. Good morning to my esteemed senior Joyce and to Gary. I have been cringing with the level of tension with which they have made their or seriousness, let me put it that way, with which they have made their submissions this morning. There's no doubt that the judiciary is the last line of defense. And like we've all agreed, when everything else seems to be suspended in this country, in terms of when there's a coup d'etat, the judiciary is the only one that is preserved. I always find trouble when the work of the judiciary is limited to only political cases. First, I would want to state the judiciary do not sit to only determine political cases. Lawyers who go to court do not defend people of political classes. I want to believe, and I know for a fact that Gary who you have referred to as an MPP person, has handled cases that has in court in his private practice that are against certain, should I say, positions of the government, as it were, but he was acting in his capacity as a lawyer. I want to believe that other known NDC lawyers or sympathizers, as it were, have also handled cases that belonged or that their clients were either known MPP persons or in favor of government policy, or even when NDC was in power, against government policy. And so to reduce the discussion based on the commentary of these persons involved, as if that the judiciary only sits to handle political cases, I think is the source of the problem. We should expand the dynamics of the discussion, and then we'll understand how the comments by the ex-president could have been avoided or made better. And then the platform used by the Attorney General, maybe some of his words could have also been more measured. Let me put it that way. Now, if the former president stands with, I'm hearing or the NDC has over 400 known or persons who belong to their legal team, let me put it that way, and say that the Ghanaians are losing confidence in the judiciary and that it will take a change of the Chief Justice for us to restore something or some confidence in the judiciary. You know, if I had made such comments in my private discussions, I don't think it would have been a concern or something that would have been topical this morning. If you had made that in your private discussions, it would not have been topical. Indeed, I'm sure that there may be persons who hold the same views as the former president concerning their perceived issues with the judiciary. But they are not, once they make those comments, they are not up for discussion. It is because of the capacity or the status of the person who made those comments. The NDC in the last election had, and you may correct me if I may wrong, more than 4 million persons voting for them. And so to the lay mind, Mr. John Mahama has more than 4 million followers. So whatever Mr. John Mahama says, or His Excellency, the former president says, it is assumed that he would carry enough weight for 4 million Ghanaian plus, of more than 4 million Ghanaians, to take his word for it. Now, if you say that there's no confidence in the judiciary, for which reason there must be a change in the Chief Justice to restore the confidence in the judiciary, what it means is that if an NDC member has a problem, a private problem, maybe a business transaction, will he say that because my leader has said there is no confidence in the judiciary, I should not file a writ in court to ventilate my grievance? I don't think that is what he expected, or that is the reaction he wants to come out of his speech. Now, if you say that you want to remove the Chief Justice or you think that the removal of the Chief Justice is the only way to restore confidence in the judiciary is not made up of only the Chief Justice. Like Gary said, there are so many judges in the judiciary. There are other arms of the judiciary, the workers, the judicial service, the secretary. And are you going to change all of these persons to be able to restore the so-called confidence you said have lost? Again, the judiciary is not above criticism. I have written articles that I have criticized some decisions of the judges. But because we are in a profession that is very conservative by its very nature and its role in our governance, persons who hold certain offices should be very careful the way they make public statements concerning the judiciary. Because if you make these comments only because of you are situating it in the context of political decisions. And so when you lose a case, and this goes both ways, I'm not limiting it to only former President Mahama, both political sides. When you win a political case, or when you lose a political case, you come and say that the judiciary, the people are losing confidence in the judiciary, and that we'll have to change the Chief Justice to restore confidence. Are you asking members of your political party
who have private or commercial matters, or for lack of a better word, non-political matters, not to go to the judiciary? I do not think that is the situation, or that is what we want for our country. And so, yes, I had no problem with the former president criticizing the judiciary. As a Ghanaian, he has a right to criticize judiciary. But the moment he says that the Chief Justice ought to be removed, then I begin to worry. Because when in this country, the former EC was removed by the MPP, I criticized it. Because when they were in opposition, they said they will remove her when they come to power. And they did. So if the NDC wins election in 2024, he would be sworn in by the Chief Justice on the 7th of January 2025. Would he stand before this same Chief Justice, Justice Kwesi Anini-Abuah, and take the oath of office? Or he would say that I have no confidence in you, and so I'll not take the oath of office from you? Is that what he wants us to believe? So he could have made his comments to say that, listen, I'm not happy with the way the case went, and I think that the case should have gone A, B, and C. Nobody would have criticized him. But the moment he used words that said that it will take only the removal of the Chief Justice to restore confidence in the judiciary, then I think he went, not a little, he went way overboard. And as a former president, somebody who, if he wins election, he would want to take the oath of office from the Chief Justice. And if it is this same Chief Justice, then I think that his comments could have been said in a better way. I definitely don't agree. And if the same comment was made by an MPP person, I think that most of us should have criticized it as it were. Because you have a right to criticize the judiciary. We all do, like I've said. There are numerous articles by lawyers, there are numerous commentaries by lawyers that criticize certain decisions. But you must put it in a context. Judges are human. They make mistakes. The fact that he has made a mistake does not mean that he has malicious intention.
Okay, so quick intervention. We know that, yes, the justices of our apex court have security of tenure unless retirement kicks in, or maybe there is something egregious that is done which would warrant their being set aside. So I think that one can be put in its proper place. But when you look then at the other side and what has been said, again, we've had, like Bawa Mokhtari pointed out, the current president saying, the ruling then was perverse. Now we have this former president saying that, even the Chief Justice must go. What then? I want us to find some middle ground, the way forward. What then for you, Bobby Banton? And I'll pose the same question to Gary and Joyce Bawa Mokhtari. What then for you is the way forward? And just to clarify, though, so the former president, Mahama, erred, right?
Yes, to the extent that he said that the confidence in the judiciary has been eroded and that it will take the removal of the Chief Justice to restore the confidence. To me, he erred.
All right.
Everything that he said about criticizing the judiciary, we all do when we think that some decisions could have gone the other way. But it doesn't mean that the people who deliver these decisions had malicious intentions.
All right.
And to suggest that, I think, is wrong. Whoever says that in whatever capacity, especially as a former leader, as a former leader of the country and somebody aspiring to the office of a president, it was quite unfortunate.
The way forward then, yes, we've looked at the political element and we want to get past that. But in terms of chastising our judiciary where chastisement is needed and also whipping them in line so that they can be that bastion of our democracy in about a minute, what would you say is the way forward for you, Bobby Banton?
I think that the justice system, right from its inceptions, has never been perfect. I do not expect that it will be perfect because they are human beings, just as every person appointed by the state, every person in his personal, private, or public endeavor is not a perfect human being. So we should not expect them to be perfect. However, it is these intellectual criticisms or non-emotional criticisms that will make them better. And they themselves, like you rightly said, they are platforms where the Chief Justice has had cause to comment on the work of his constituents. And at the opening of the Commonwealth Association of Judges or so, I think about 2 weeks ago, There were comments to that effect that they must ensure that justice is their only concern when they are delivering their work or when they are discharging their obligations. And so there's no doubt that there would always, as long as we have human beings manning these institutions, there will be problems. And if there are issues like that, it is how we go about it. It is not you suggesting that they were malicious without any form of evidence and relying on perception that will make it work. Like I said, today their decisions are not for you. Tomorrow their decision will be for you. And what will you say if the same persons deliver decisions in your favor? Then you'll be forced to swallow your words. Right. And so we should be mindful how we reduce every decision of the Supreme Court, the High Court, the District Court, the Circuit Court to political undertones. It is not good for our existence as a democracy.
Thank you for those comments. Let me bring in Joyce Bawa Mukhtari. Hello.
Thank you very, very much. I believe that I listened to my brother Gary, and I've also listened to Bobby.
Right. So I'll give Joyce my apologies. I'll give both you and Gary a minute and a half, and we'll wrap up.
You gave Gary so much of the time, and I think he went on and on. I'm not even sure he was actually.
Well, unfortunately, we are pressed for time. I'm regulating here, so please bear with me.
Yes, but let me just state, without any fear of equivocation, that indeed, for His Excellency the President Akufo-Addo to describe whatever evidence we took to court in the course of the petition as skimpy, I do not think he's spokesperson for the Judiciary or for the Supreme Court. Secondly, for Gary to indicate very clearly and loudly that it is dependent on what evidence we chose to go to court with, and that we didn't even have one pink sheet. Please, we had our petition, we had our case. We chose to go by way of the numbers. The Constitution itself says that we should win by what? 50 plus 1 vote. So even if we went to court about vote pardon, about overvoting, and in all the total sum of it is within about 5, what is your business? I believe the Supreme Court has ruled on the matter, and we are all evident that this is where the Supreme Court chose to go. We put up a very good fight. This was their decision, and the matter rests solely in the bosom of the Supreme Court. I don't think that is a matter that we ought to belabor. That is not the matter in contention. What it is in contention right now is that, remember, there are many other cases, and I believe President Mahama did not, on this occasion, refer even to the petition of 2020. We have the Okuni case, we have the case of our own party chairman, we have the case recently of the Honorable Atuforson, we have the case of the Honorable Quayson from the Central Region, and many others. It is also within the same dispensation that we had persons in Kumasi attack a certain High Court judge.
Right.
Walk free. Please, we can go on and on and on and on. Let me place on record that as lawyers, we ought to remember first and foremost that when we speak about freedom and freedom of speech, it also includes conversations about criticism.
Right.
How we choose to go about those criticisms is really the question we all ought to be responding to. And I have indicated the Chief Justice himself. And remember, this is not the first time that any government will be working with a Chief Justice that was not necessarily appointed by that government. Indeed, in the history of the Fourth Republic, the NDP has only actually appointed one Chief Justice. We've worked with all of them, including the very last one. In the same vein, the criticisms against Madame Charlotte by then candidate Akufo-Addo, I don't remember my brother Gary sounding and waxing so lyrical. Please, I think let's put these conversations in the context that they require.
Okay.
We ought to look forward. We ought to be fairer. We ought to think more as justice being one that equalizes, because in the eyes of the law, we are each and every one equal. And I believe that is what we ought to be tackling. And certainly, it takes nothing away from what happened yesterday, from the arrogance,
thank you.
Goodness, the insults that were clearly directed at the image and office of the former president.
Okay. I'm grateful that you took the time to join the conversation. Unfortunately, I'm being told by my producer that there is not sufficient time to take you, Gary. But I'm grateful that you took the time to join. Joyce Bawa Mukhtari is a lawyer. She joined the conversation. Gary Nimako is a lawyer as well, member of the MPP's communications team. And Bobby Banton, all of you joined the conversation. Thank you so much for making the time. We'll take a bit of a breather and return with our next conversation on that dam of promises. Do stay. We'll be right back.
You're still watching the AM show on the Joy News channel. Now, last night's Our Hotline documentary, A Dam of Promises, aired, and in that feature, Albert Sori tracked the progress on the Pwalugu multi-purpose dam. We know that the official construction of the dam was to begin in February 2020, while JoyNews investigations on the ground show that there are no physical signs of any ongoing construction of the dam, which is estimated to cost $993 million US. Let me introduce my guest to discuss that. I will start with Dr. Charles Abugri, who is the CEO of the Northern Development Authority, and we also have Dr. Charles Nyaba, who is the Executive Director of the Peas and Farmers Association of Ghana, and Professor David Miller, who is the President, Miller Institute for the Transdisciplinary and Development Studies. Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you so much for your time.
And good morning to your cherished viewers.
Now, let me start with the consultant of the Pwalugu Multipurpose Dam Project, that is Professor David Miller. Now, Prof, can you explain the role you played in the Pwalugu Dam Project so far?
Yeah, thank you. Basically, the dam design was complete.
Mm-hmm.
All the necessary documentations in connection with the engineering works and also some social activities was complete. Now, by law, it's required that we do an impact assessment, environmental impact assessment, by consulting stakeholders to find out how they position themselves in response to the project that was supposed to be started in their area. So it was basically an environmental impact assessment that I led.
Now, looking at the issues that came out in the documentary, do you think that the government was well prepared before embarking on this project?
Yeah, I always mention that the actual design of the project started long ago.
Yeah.
I've been privy to a series of workshops here in the north concerning the dam across several regimes.
Yeah.
But the issue of funding was the bottleneck. It was the bane to starting the problem. And I know very well that the NDC government was thinking about sourcing external funding because of the magnitude of and the complexity of the facility. And in the process, I don't think they were able to secure the funding. Just then, NPP assumed office, and they pledged that they had found the funding, and hence the project could start. Hence, the president came to cast salt for the commencement of the project. Now, in my search in the documentation, I realized that this funding from MPP was supposed to be largely GOG, Government of Ghana funding.
Yeah.
Which meant that it has to go through the normal processes of budgeting and presenting it to Parliament and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
As part of the discussion and also making some professional input to the work, it was clear that if we are going to rely on GOG for a $1 billion dam funding, which has to feature in the budget every now and then, otherwise it will destabilize the entire budget. We put it as a lump sum. It will be difficult to really raise GOG to do the job.
All right,
I think that,
yeah, continue.
That is what has stalled the program.
Okay.
The project, because the goodwill is there, the engineering works are there, all the other services are there. Even there were attempts to compensate people who will be losing their properties and livelihoods. All that was in place. The only thing was just funding. And NPP succeeded in indicating their sources of funding, which is GOG. But then the circumstances didn't allow that to happen. In fact, that's why we are where we are now.
So while we haven't started the construction of the dam is because of funding. Is that what I'm getting from you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically.
Okay. So I want you to stay on. Prof, it seems like we're losing you, but I'd like you to stay on the line because I want to go to the CEO of the Northern Development Authority, and that is Dr. Charles Abugri. I beg your pardon. Good morning, sir. Now, this current plan, does it fit into the initial plan or the master plan you led? Dr. Abugri? Okay, it seems like we don't... Okay, let's go to Dr. Charles Nyaba, who's the Executive Director of Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. Sir, how important is this dam to the peasant farmers? It seems like I've lost both of the Charles. Okay, Dr. Charles Nyaba, Executive Director of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. If you can hear me, how important is this dam to the peasant farmers?
Yeah, so we as beneficiaries, I think we are not ready to take the excuses of government. I heard the prof said that everything was done. The problem has to do with lack of funding.
Yeah.
We don't want to agree to that because we would put it lack of commitment on the government part to do that. When government paused to build a national cathedral, they managed to get funding to start the foundation. So if government were to prioritize the dam construction of the dam as an important project, I think they would have found the money to do that. So we just think that it's lack of commitment and priority. Now, the dam is important because if you look at economic activities in northern part of the country, more than 90% of the population depends on agriculture. Now, agricultural activities in recent times are facing a lot of challenges because we're dependent on more than 90% on rainfall. The rains that we used to record between 4 to 5 months, in recent times, it has reduced to 4 to 3 months.
Yeah.
Apart from the duration, the intensity also varies. So there are instances we record a drought in the whole of the northern part of the country, and around this time, we have flooding, and this water will allow it to run into the sea.
Yeah.
So when the proposal of the dams came, we all jubilated. And there is no any group in the northern part of the country that do not support the construction of this dam, because we know the importance of the dams to the people in terms of their agricultural activities, in terms of other economic activities. So the dam is really dear to our hearts, and we think that if there's a mark that Akufo-Addo government will want to leave for the people of the north for years to come, that we always remember and say, okay, this was done by Akufo-Addo regime, is this done?
All right, so let me go back to you, Prof. I want to know, do the current plans show that all the components of the dam can be achieved? You know, I mean, we have like what, 30 more months? Well, 50 months was promised, right? But we only 30 months have passed. So do the current plans show that all the components of the dam can be achieved within this timeline?
Yeah, let me step back and correct my colleague, the panelist.
Okay.
He started on a very unfortunate note. I don't know why he's linking the funding of the cathedral to the funding of the dam. Precisely, I wouldn't want the cathedral type funding to be used to fund a dam as a matter of principle. If you say you let it go through the budget line, don't surreptitiously pick money and fund an activity. If that's what he wants, I think no. So that my argument is that if we say it's GOG, it has to feature in the budget and pass by the budget through parliament and endorsed, and the funding should happen. And that process is what has been truncated or not managed very well. But talking about completion, it's impossible. It's really impossible, and it's even not prudent. Looking at the economic circumstances that face the country now, it's not possible and it's not prudent.
Okay.
Because if you want to stampede a dam, which is not the way to construct that dam, you can remember what happened to one village, one dam. You don't stampede dam projects. You construct them over a period such that they will deal with the characteristics of the seasons and the exigencies of the different situations. So it's a gradual process of construction over time. So 4 years would be a reasonable period to construct a dam. And now you are saying we should squeeze that into 1.5 or 1 year. It's not possible. Even if we do it, we'll have a very bad dam. It won't be fit for purpose. So I would water down that expectation, much as I watered down the expectation of controlling floods with a dam. I insist technically that you don't use dams to control floods. You use dams to harvest water. So it's unfortunate that everybody assumes, based on some misinformation, that this dam will control flood. We have experiences with similar dams in the area. Via Dam introduced more floods, communities got lost. Tono Dam introduced more backflow flooding, communities got lost. So it means that this dam would introduce some amount of flooding. But the argument is that after the war, and you know the wall is sitting over 100 kilometers from where the water is, Bakri. So Bakri will still spill. Bakri will now flow with pressure because there's a wall blocking it. Flooding will increase before you get to the wall. After the wall, we will now manage the water for irrigation purposes. 25,000 hectares of farmland will be irrigated. Excellent. But thereafter, the excess water will also flow freely. And that will also lead to some other flooding, but far away.
Yeah.
So I say that these are the realities with using a certain system to manage a problem. But for agricultural irrigation purposes, which my colleague emphasized, excellent. The dam will deliver that and more.
Yeah.
Even I argue that for the technically they say, oh, communities around Pwalugu cannot benefit from the dam because the irrigable area is downstream in Savannah and Northeast region. And I say no, you can use pumps. You can build pumps on the waterway to pump the water back to Pwalugu farmlands. Simpler pumps, smaller pumps. So it's possible to let the water that we have harvested benefit a larger community, including Pwalugu. We only need to think outside the box. How do we do this? You see. So I think that let's turn the objectives around, water down the fact that it would control flooding. Also, the electrical part, the hydro part can be watered down. Later on, we can put solar panels on the water surface, like it's being done in Bui now, to generate power. And let's concentrate on the agricultural benefits of the dam. And for this, everybody has thumbs up for it. Imagine year-round production on 25,000 hectares of land.
Yeah.
It has never happened anywhere in Ghana. And for me, this is the in thing. This is what we are all pushing for. All the other things, we are sure they would fail, or they wouldn't deliver at the rate that they say they would.
All right, let me bring in Dr. Nyaba. Time is far gone. What do you think the government should be doing moving forward?
Okay, so thank you. We are so keen on this dam. I think we have been following all the development, the government communication on the dam. Last year, around this time, I think we came out with a statement when there were emphasis that the dam was going to still be completed by 2023. I am not a technical person, but looking at the percentage of work that was done as of 2021, we were clear that we were not too sure that government was going to meet this deadline.
Yeah.
What I think we should be doing as the deadline is getting closer We have opportunity. Government is currently negotiating IMF bailout so that it will create space for government to be able to take more resources. I think I agree with my prof that we are not talking about using the cathedral dam money to replace with construction of dam. That was not what I said. I was saying that it's a matter of priority. So once government prioritized cathedral, construction of cathedral, they managed to get money, a seed money to start. So if this is a priority, government can still manage to get money. And I think that funding should go beyond GOG budget. We should also look at taking loans, the loans that we are taking. After all, we take loans to even service our interest, our loan interest. What is wrong if you are taking those loans to construct or to get this dam started? If this government is not even able to complete it, just like Prof. Miller said, and it happened that there's another regime, and the policy document is already there, they come to continue it because it's something that will go a long way to address challenges of farming in northern part of the country. If you look at take Tono dams in northern Ghana, for instance, it's a dam that was constructed by a champion regime in the 1970s. Today, you go to the area, and this is a facility that is providing a lot of jobs, increasing produce supply, just like rice, for national consumption. And per the technical designs of this dam, it's far bigger than the Tono Dam. So I'm sure if you're able to actually devote resources to do that, it will go a long way to help the farmers and the nation as a whole. So it's something that we need to just prioritize, get loans, and start the work. If you are not even able to complete by 2023, any regime that will come will build from that.
All right, Prof, let me take your last words.
Yeah, my last words are that I'll focus on the flooding, what is happening currently, even this year. You know, there are certain strategies in place for me I find very healthy as far as managing the floods are concerned. And I must say the government has the right tone in dealing with the issue immediately. So there are low-hanging fruits that the government is blocking. Number one, they are asking people to leave potential flooding areas. The only problem is that they haven't mapped out these areas and communicated it loud enough. They are asking farmers to do early planting, which for me is excellent. If you plant in May, June, July, 90 days, most of the crop on average are 90 days. You'll be able to harvest before the major floods come. Then if you plant early maturing varieties, you are doubling the opportunity of harvesting before the floods. This is what I heard the Northeast Regional Minister mention, and I must say I'm along with it. I'm a technical person in the field, and I think these are the immediate actions that should be happening. Whilst the dam happens, if it happens. And I like the positioning that we should look for alternative source of funding. And we should see it as one together to build continuity.
All right, it seems like we lost Professor David Miller there. Last words from Dr. Charles Nyaba.
Yeah, so my last words are that we expect our northern MPs, especially those in the Upper East and Northeast, to join our call to listen to the plight of the farmers around the area. They have a tenure of 4 years. At least they would like that one day their name be mentioned, that they put pressure on government to allocate resources to construct this dam. They shouldn't allow community to start agitating, calling for action before they will pick it at the national level. So my appeal is to the northern MPs. They should join the advocacy. I also appeal to the vice president. One day his name will be printed on this dam if it's able to be done during this regime. They shouldn't just see it as a political tool that if you do it, you gain more support from people around the area. But look at it beyond that, that in years to come, what can we account? What will we be left behind? Today, when you go to the Tono area, people still talk of our champo. okay? Because Achampong brought a lot of the dams that we are benefiting today.
Yeah.
So we are only appealing to Akufo-Addo government, the northern MPs, especially those in the northeast and then upper east, to join our core to put pressure on government to find alternative source of funding for this dam because it's dear to our hearts.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. My guest this morning, Dr. Charles Nyaba, who's the Executive Director of the Peasant Farmers Association. Also, Professor David Miller, who's the President of the Miller Institute for Transdisciplinary and Development Studies. In case you missed that documentary, you can catch it at 6:30 p.m. on DSTV channel 41 and GoTV channel 144. On this channel, also on our Facebook page, we are JoyNews on TV. How's it? How about treating your family to a summer holiday in South Arm? Come journey to South Africa for a good time in our beautiful country. Get to know the locals and our languages. Now, if you're looking to let your hair down and relax, or you're just in the mood for some fun, family-friendly adventures, South Africa has got everything you need. This summer was Anila, and experience a holiday worth talking about. Well, hello Ghana, happy moment is here. Let's storm World Cup Qatar 2022 with Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks and Awake Drinking Water from Casapecco Company Limited. Simply buy your favorite Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks and Awake Drinking Water. Text the 4-digit unique number on the neck of the bottle to short code *780# option 2 and follow the prompts on all networks for free. Be one of the lucky winners to this year's World Cup in the monthly draw. You can also win TVs, fridges, microwave, mobile phones, home theaters, free drinks and more instantly. So don't waste time. Grab a bottle of Storm Energy Drink, a Puma Soft Drinks and Awake Drinking Water and let's storm Qatar this World Cup. This promotion is on the LA Caritas platform and this advert is FDA approved. Terms and conditions applied. And on that note, that's how we end the AM show. I've been doing this with my fabulous host, Benjamin Akakpo. Remember to join us tomorrow, same time, same place. Thank you so much. Thank you to all our crew, our producer, our cameraman, our director especially, who's been so hands-on during the show. Please stay tuned for News Desk with Brace in about 3 minutes.